day when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore. But some days I said, wish I was a kid again. Back in the day when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore. Kid anymore, kid anymore. Back in the day when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore.
28 days. Who's counting?
Holy shit, man.
Who's keeping track?
Still
I don't know.
Jumping in rivers and...
You're only as old as what your knees feel like.
Yes. You're as old as your spine, right?
Yeah.
The fountain of youth. I've heard that too.
So I still feel good.
Or as old as your blood vessels. That was, who said that? Straight up genius of medicine. Oh, I can't remember who it was. He was one of the people who got the Sydenham. Yeah, Sydenham was this British physician from the, I think, 1700s. And he had a chorea named after him, Sydenham's chorea, which was this like post-strep abnormal movements that people would get because the antibodies would attack the brain after people had strep. And so he got the Sydenham's chorea named after him, but he also had that quote, a man is only as old as his blood vessels. A man is only as old as his arteries. It's often quoted.
Yeah.
Genius.
How old do you think your arteries are?
That's the thing. I don't know. I know that people in my family die from heart disease, though.
Yeah.
Right? Like heart disease and strokes. I mean, the men in my family for sure. So.
Yeah. That's life, though.
Well, there's some people who don't think it is. Some people don't think it's inevitable. They think that it's our it's not just genes. It's what we're eating and exposing ourselves
eventually
to.
your heart will stop. So, yeah.
But you can take the cells out of the heart, the pacemaker cells at the AV node, and put them in a dish, and they'll beat forever. If you keep giving them fuel, they'll keep on beating until the end of time.
One day we'll get there. Shortly, too. Shortly, the age of Aquarius, we're moving into that new medical cyborg technological boom.
That game was crazy.
In the next 20 years or so.
Yeah. I mean, people already freeze themselves, right? A little cryogenic freezing for Walt Disney.
They did it a little bit ahead of their time. If you like had that Walt Disney money now and was like, let me get that 2024 cryo freeze, it'd probably be a lot better. Like Austin Powers, like.
Good to have you, Ralph. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
You're the host of one of the two hosts of the Anybody Can Do This podcast. You have other hats though. You're a yoga teacher. You lead sound baths. You have this whole kind of yogic kind of alternative healing connection, and yet you're tapped in with the hip hop community. And I'm so interested to find out who you are, man.
Well, it's been an interesting journey, to say the least. I always kid about it. If you told me 10 years ago I'd be teaching yoga, I'd have fucking stabbed you in your neck. And that was like the God honest truth. But here we are. I don't know. Who knows? Sometimes you just get led in a weird direction. I don't know how it happened. It just happened.
Well,
I know how it happened.
You must know.
I know how it happened.
There
generational
there,
trauma.
Right?
Where does it start? Grandparents, for all I know.
Whoa.
But, yeah.
Well, like, when was your first yoga class? How deep into it are you? When did this start?
I started teaching yoga myself in 2019. I started taking yoga in it was like the weekend of Easter, 2015. I stumbled on a free class up at this place called Yoga on the 3rd in Irwin. It was on 3rd Street. I had a buddy that sold. He lived on 3rd Street, and I'd go up. He just moved there recently, and it was like this hip little town. He moved from Glassport up there. It was a nice change of pace for me to go up and buy some and shit. But he knew I was on like this weird fitness journey. My whole life I was always overweight. I'm still overweight, but I was always fat as fuck. Like there was no denying it. Like, I've recently lost 100 pounds. Ooh. And I'm up there, and he knew like I like cold pressed juice, and they just opened up this place called like the Greenberry, which is still there. It's down the road. It's not on 3rd no more, but it's still like right in that neighborhood. And He's like, I know you like cold pressed juice and shit. They got wheatgrass. Go up in there. I went up in there, and next door was this yoga place, and it just said, first class is on us. Give it a try. And I thought about it, and I was like, man, I just lost all this weight. I'm in the best shape of my life. And I was like, I've trained everything except for my brain. I was like, maybe, because I don't know. At this time, I don't even know what yoga is. I thought yoga was some, like rich person grandma shit. Like, the person that opened my eyes to it was Diamond Dallas Page, old wrestler, DDP yoga. If it wasn't for him, I don't think I'd ever step foot in there. But I remember going to the juice spot and seeing that, and I'm like, free yoga? Like, what do I got to lose? It's free. Worst case scenario, no one knows I ever showed up here, and no one will know I would, like.
I think you said grandma, right? And I think that that's important to highlight, is that I think the barrier for a lot of men is that yoga is seen as feminine.
Well,
it's seen as exercise for women. It's
yeah.
seen as a female space, a space for women to have their own space. And there is some blockade or some kind of barrier to entry for men, right?
Yeah, there's like you're saying, you're right. There's a little facade about it. You don't see too many male yogis, like, and when you do, they're like, I hate to call it, but like stereotypical. They're all the same type of person. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's like the spirit, they're all spiritual incensey ponytails and shit like that. That's what you normally get. But most of them are all under 200 pounds.
That's normally, that's dope. Yeah, no, that's such a good point.
That's like the vessel that separates me. Like, to see a big dude like Diamond Dallas Page, it's like 250
Who
pounds.
Is that?
He's an old wrestler from the 90s. Sick boy. Diamond Dallas Page is...
My wife would know downstairs. She's big.
I actually met him. I waited
to
meet him and tell him, like, and we took a picture, and I showed him before pictures, and I was like, this is before I started doing yoga, after. And he's like, holy shit, dude. And I was like, you know what? It's all because of you. I was like, I'd have never had the balls to step in there if I ain't know. Like, I'm like, if a bad motherfucker like this can do it, I'm just as crazy. Like, give it a try.
Go ahead.
I went in there. It was grandma-ish. The first couple of years of my yoga journey was very, I call it grandma, but it's just gentle, yin yoga, where we hugged pillows and did the gentle movements. We never would stand on our head. Crow was out of question, things like that. And I went to this class. This lady's name was Diane Bieler. And there was like 3 of us in this class. It was a Saturday before Easter in 2015. And I went in there not knowing what to expect. I was kind of scared. I actually had like a tweak in my shoulder, and I was like, I don't know, it's stretching. I don't know what we're doing. No clue about like breathing or anything. Like, I've been breathing my whole life alive. I figured I knew how to fucking breathe. So I go into this class, and I just didn't know what to expect. And it's very fucking gentle. It's very intimate because there's only 3 people there. So like, my child's pose is supported, and I'm getting fucking adjustments the whole time. And we did, like, towards the end of class, we did this psoas stretch. She started talking about psoas. She started talking about fight or flight. And I had like a flashback of like middle school. And I'm like, I remember this shit from like gym class. And while I was in this stretch, something, I don't know, it was like 30 years of stress inside my groin and hip just like snapped and went away. And I was like, is it ill feeling? And after class, I didn't know what to say. I couldn't even talk. I was like in a state of like, my body was like, how do we react to what just happened? Like, that never just happened. And like, I just walked out of there, and I pulled my phone out, and I'm like, signing up for next Saturday. No matter what, I was like, I'm coming back to this shit. Next thing you know, I start going back to it week after week. I start buying unlimited monthly packages, and this place ends up closing. I end up going to a place I can't even remember.
Who was the teacher? Who was the teacher for those first?
Diane Bieler, this lady, Sarah Petro. I hope I said her name right. She actually owns the space in Greensburg. It's kind of far from this location, but
right.
She was one of the teachers. This lady Rosalind, she called herself the Light.
Yeah.
Like her shit just said the Light
Incredible.
on when like you signed up for a
Yeah.
class. That's kind of audacious. Like,
Well, it's a little what's the word? Blasphemous, right?
Yeah.
Like we usually L is the prefix for the light.
yeah.
And all of the archangels and some of the sacred names of God, of course,
I
have
thought that was bold. I'm like, you're
Yeah.
gonna call yourself
Let there
the
be
Light?
light, and there was
Who
light.
called you that? First off, like, let me ask you this question.
Yeah, where did you get that
Rosalind,
moniker,
Like, who
Ros?
told you that?
Yeah, but
Are you
who
like
was
can someone vouch for that?
what was the lineage of those first classes? So who was the teacher of the teacher who opened your eyes to yoga?
The person who really opened my eyes was Diane Buehler. She
Yeah.
owned the studio.
Do you know where she trained?
I don't know none of that.
Mm.
See, I never really inquired about that to none of my teachers. I'm sure they all got 6 stories. I'm sure a lot of them are just like
Yeah.
amazing yoga 200 hours, yoga flow 200 hours, on lounge 200 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
Because that's like the route everyone. That's the route
I
I
think
took.
yoga flow is the big one here. I think that's how, because I interviewed Suzanne Nagel,
Yeah.
right, from O Lounge,
Yeah.
and she was, I think she trained with yoga flow, which
Yeah.
is everywhere around here, right?
I came up. I still am with Yoga Flow. I came up through Yoga Flow.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting story. I was just about to say, like, Yoga on 3rd closed down, so I started going to this place called Inner Strength Yoga. It was on Route 30, and it was the first time I ever entered a heated room, and it wasn't super heated. It was only 80 some degrees, but it was different than the grandma hugging shit. But it was like it was the same thing. It was like all the people that freshly came. Like every class was the same to me that I'd go there. It was your basic class, the first class you would teach every time, basically. Like the very, very beginner shit.
Mm.
And I just asked the lady one day that taught, there was this lady named Connie. Connie was this badass lady, buff, fucking, like she fucked me up at yoga. And I'm like, Connie, I was like, where do I fucking find people like you? I was like, I want to try to stand on my head and advance from all this other stuff. And she told me, she was like, go to Yoga Flow. And she was like, in all honesty, she was like, you should just start fucking teaching yourself. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that. I was like, but I enjoy going to yoga. It's my little space away from home. And where do I go to advance? She tells me, go to Yoga Flow. So I go to Yoga Flow. She tells me specifically to meet Dom. I ain't meet Dom right away, but like I went to a bunch of classes. I went to this lady, Michelle Planet. And Michelle is, to this day, there's not a better teacher in Western Pennsylvania, maybe even in the United States. Like if there was Olympics, Michelle's qualifying for sure. And she's coming out of Western PA.
She's still teaching?
Yeah.
What's the last name?
Planet Terror or Planet. I just call her Smell. She actually trained me. Her and Dom were the trainers that I took through the course.
Dom is a man or woman?
Dominique Ponca is a woman. And Connie's like, she's like running the Dom. First time I met Dom, we had a really weird interaction where she pulled like some Sixth Sense type shit. She's like, she kept asking me if something was wrong, and there wasn't nothing wrong. And later that night, I ended up getting food poisoning. And it was like, I don't know if maybe I had a hue of green during class or what, or she just was like, this dude got like something. She kept asking me, like, are you all right? And I'm like, if you ask me one more time, I'm going to get upset. Like,
But it wasn't just the food poisoning that was off about you at that point. I mean, you had all kinds of vices that you've shed, right? All kinds of layers that you've shed since.
Well, I went in there, I wouldn't say vices. I guess you could call them vices. Oreos and the biggest vice back in the day.
Those things are a nightmare, man. There's no dairy at all in an Oreo.
Well,
it's strictly made of seed oils.
Someone actually
the whole thing is just canola oil.
Sent me down a rabbit hole Oreo recently where it's like the Wiccan cross or something is on it. It's very interesting.
Well, I'm down with the Wiccans though. I feel like the
it might be Wiccan. It might
the
be
Wiccans and the pagans
like,
have a lot figured out, right? They're kind of like the animists.
But it is interesting.
And the Druids, right?
How
These
Oreo,
nature religions. We need to get back in touch with our natural selves. That's actually, I think, the root of all anxiety is that we're not connected with nature the way we used to be. We're not connected with the stars the way we used to be. We've blotted them out with these artificial light sources. We've paved the streets, and the entire playground is covered so that the kids can't feel their toes on the grass anymore.
I was going to
It's the
say,
most unnatural way of living you can ever imagine.
I'm a big earther. I like to hug trees and walk on moss. But you're right. That's a lost thing. It is everywhere you look, there is man-made fucking concrete and rock everywhere and roads, and we are not in touch with nature like we should be. But pretty soon, I don't know. We're not going to be in touch with it at all. We're not going to leave our houses in the future if everybody gets their way with technology. We'll just be fucking virtual reality'd up.
Yeah, the glasses are scary. I, of course, thought about buying it because I'm such an Apple, fanboy. And I saw this device and I started picking out my options. Do I want the 128 gig or the 256? Maybe I need the terabyte. And I'm looking at it.
Do you want to give yourself a seizure? The 128 or the 500?
No, I'm looking at it like, how much time do I want to spend away from my children? That was the thought that went through my head is, what is this going to be robbing me of?
Well, next thing you know, you get your kid one for Christmas too, and these are both in the fucking world.
I guess you do get to see what's in front of you, right? Even though you're wearing it, it's just a
I've
filter.
seen some videos on the internet of it.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I don't know how sick it is. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's something for me. I feel like I already have trouble looking at my phone for countless hours. It makes me feel like I'm going like lazy-eyed or something.
If it can get me away from my phone, if it's a way where I can just interact with the world without having to look at that piece of shit in my pocket, then absolutely I'm in, right? Like if there's a way I can put on a pair of glasses where people can see me and I don't have to ever pull out my phone again, if I can put in an earpiece and just talk to Siri and I never have to look at my cell phone again, sign me up. I don't, we
kind of have that. We kind of are there.
Getting there. But yes, we have to get rid of the smartphone ideas. It was a bad mistake. It's kind of like the internal combustion engine of technology, right? It's like we made a couple wrong turns over the course of history. Internal combustion engine, not a good choice. Smartphone, not good for mental health, not good for self-confidence, not good for relationships. For society, for civilization.
Well, it's the first step that turns us into that cyborg. We literally have a computer, and I literally can you can ask me anything, and I can fucking figure it out, no matter what, as long as I got a signal.
Can you square the circle? I mean, can you solve global warming? Can you solve world hunger?
I could ask. And
global war, the Middle East crisis, Gaza.
I personally think I can't solve all that. The things that I'm not. You can only attempt, but you can't solve it. They've
square root of -1. Well, so yeah, I mean, maybe like So there's so many things I wanted to touch on before we get back into your yoga journey. So there's a couple things I wanted to bring up. One was about like this idea of bodybuilders or overweight people that are huge,
overweight especially,
in exercise that's non-traditional. And of course, the first thing I thought about was Arnold, right? The photographs of Arnold Schwarzenegger and the videos of Arnold doing ballet.
Yeah.
Really, I think for a lot of people were that kind of first time where they said, oh, wow, like this is an exercise that's made for women. What is he doing? Like, what is this?
Help them boys pose. Franco, his training partner, I'm a big Arnold guy. Franco, his training partner, was like the light heavyweight boxing champion in Italy for a while. And balance, man. People neglect balance. I know a couple gangster motherfuckers that go and actually do ballet locally, and I know a lot that go and do that bar, like the Pilates bar, like I don't know what they call it, solid core or whatever.
BARRE, right? Just bar. That's like, a class of its own.
I know
Pilates.
A lot
Pilates
of gangster motherfuckers that actually pull up to that.
So there's Arnold, of course, and then the second one is, other than my wife, the big wrestling aficionado who I've had on the podcast is Chad Simon. So Chad, Ari Gold 412, has big name wrestlers as contacts in his iPhone. He's showed me.
Nice.
Has like crazy photos and goes, WrestleMania, like he's tapped in. And And then the third one, you were talking about men in yoga, and also you mentioned this teacher of yours, Dom, who's a female. So there was, as part of my lineage in yoga, the first classes that I went to were with my girlfriend at the time, Lindsay Hilscher, but her teacher was a guy named Dom in New York City.
Nice.
And the classes I went to, some of the earliest classes I went to were with him. I can't remember his last name, but it's Dominic. And he was teaching at this studio called Yoga Vida, which is sort of legendary in Lower East Side on Bond Street. And then they ultimately had a second studio, which was close to Union Square, or like, NYU campus. They were kind of well known because it was Alec Baldwin's wife's yoga studio.
Yeah.
So Ilaria Baldwin taught there.
Yeah.
She was the one with the fake accent. You
Yeah.
ever heard that?
Yeah. If it wasn't for Beetlejuice, Alec, he'd be out of here, man. That family, they're some fucking funny people. She faked like being Italian or something.
Spanish. So she lived in Spain for like a couple years.
Turned out she's from New Jersey the whole fucking time.
Dude, like she just wanted to sound exotic. So she had this accent. It's wild. It's a wild story. And then the other crazy story from that studio was when somebody went through the window in her class. Somebody actually fell out of the window while she was teaching in a handstand, like did a flip out the window and ended up suing. Like they survived, but with injuries, and they ended up suing. It was interesting. It's like one of the main reasons I think there's all these waivers that you have to sign.
Well, I
when you
was
go
just
to
going
yoga.
to say one thing. I just actually renewed my insurance, but it's like the number one injury thing. Like more people get hurt at yoga than they do at like football. And
But
it's
they're
just because
gonna
of
get
ego.
hurt,
It's
dude.
ego.
Well,
Ego
that
plays a part in it a lot.
For sure, but I also think that a lot of these injuries are just something waiting to happen. You haven't been using your body.
Yep.
If you
try to bind real quick and you ain't built for it at the moment.
well, yeah. So that's a good point.
You
is
ain't
that
warmed
teachers,
up to it yet.
yeah, teachers need to offer modifications. They need
Of
to
course,
offer
yeah.
different levels of engagement with each pose. So if you give someone, an option, it should come with beginner,
Yep.
Intermediate and advanced options for almost every pose. Even something as simple as a vinyasa should be
absolutely.
offered
I
with different levels.
I offer the knee push-ups all the time. I actually love a knee push-up.
Yep.
If you do like 50 of them, your triceps will scream.
Totally agree.
And that's how you get strong. If you want to do your crows and you want to do headstands, you got to build. You got to do the perfect chaturanga almost.
Amen. The other one is so when you were talking about again men in yoga, like I never had that vision of
I took a class.
ponytail man.
I took a class with this dude. His name was Dave. He showed up in Biv Overhaul Dickies, like straight from the fucking mill. And it was me, him, and another lady. And it was in a semi-heated room. And I can't think of what this yoga studio was called. It was in Swiss Village in Elizabeth Township, like Elizabeth Forward area. And they had carpeted floors and heated yoga. It was...
Oh, that's gross.
It-
They have
it
that.
was
There's
gross.
one like
It
that in
was-
Shady
it was
Side. I won't
gross.
out them. I
It
won't out
was-
the one like that in
It
Shady
was
Side
gross, but
with the carpeted steps all the way
he
up.
farted and he just kept going. Like it was supposed to be an hour class, an hour and a half. We're still in
Yeah.
there, and he's like, "You still want to go?" And I'm like, I kind of want to go home, dude. Like,
Yeah, you can't fart if you have the bandhas engaged appropriately. So if you
I
have
tried
your
my hardest not to fart at yoga.
which
because-
bandha is it? Mula bandha? If you have mula
the
bandha
mula.
engaged, there's no
Yeah,
way to
there's
fart.
Yeah,
Because you actually have to squeeze the butt
Your
cheeks
butt- yeah.
together, pull up on the perineum. So the perineum gets lifted up. It's not exactly squeezing the butt cheeks. The butt cheeks can relax a little, but it's
You gotta
squeezing the
f-
anus.
Yeah, you got to flex down.
You have to
there.
lift up
Yeah.
the anus and anteriorly tilt the pelvis, or posteriorly tilt. Which one is it? The pelvis goes back. So
I tell people suck
tightens the
their
abs.
belly button up
Yep.
to their spine.
Yep. Now you
and
got
tuck it
Uddiyana
up
Bandha.
underneath your
That's
rib
Uddiyana
cage.
Bandha. Yep. Yep.
After you engage that,
And then the throat chakra.
yeah, well, some people. I'm a big throat person. I'm a big. I believe it's called the vagus nerve. I'm a big stretch your neck.
People think Parkinson's comes up through the vagus nerve. I was just reading about that.
Well,
There's
it
this idea that it starts in the gut because everybody has constipation, and then it moves upward, and everybody has mood disorder, depression, anxiety. And so it starts, which is, the gut is where all the serotonin is made. And then there's this protein, this kind of infectious protein hypothesis that one misfolded protein causes other proteins to misfold, and it actually spreads up the vagus nerve into the brainstem, which is why Parkinson's is a disease of the brainstem, of the substantia nigra, which is in the brainstem, and the vagus nerve comes off the brainstem.
See, I think, well, I can't speak for like Parkinson's and things like that, but a lot of those disorders and things like that come, I believe, because you're not stretching that nerve and you're not opening up that throat and letting that energy.
Blockages create disease. This is like a very common belief in Eastern medicine.
When you
right?
When you think about your frame, where it all starts down at the chakra in your ass, as I like to call it, move your way
Which
up.
is root chakra.
Yeah, your root.
Yeah.
You have so much room going up to your heart. You get to your throat. It bottlenecks. It literally fucking bottlenecks, like you're going through a Squirrel Hill tunnel. Everything, your energy slows down. That's why it doesn't flow. It's sick. And when it comes to neurological disorders, people who have seizures and things like that, I like to think that it's like X-menish almost, like their energy is flowing a little bit too sick through that throat to their brain. And that's why they,
I hear you loud and clear. I think for me, the way I think about the throat chakra, I think about it all the time, but in disorders like spasmodic dysphonia, right? Think about RFK and his voice. Well, what happened to his voice? He has a disease called laryngeal dystonia, right? Or spasmodic dysphonia, where he can't speak. He can't get the words out. Yeah. And the reason, I think many in Eastern medicine would say, is that there's a blockage, that there's actually an impairment of flow
funny stuff about
of energy
RFK.
through the throat chakra, right? Which is, what's the name of the throat chakra? I can't remember. I don't know the color. I don't know the shape
It's
anymore.
blue.
I can't remember the
blue.
name.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Is it Jalandhara Bandha? Is that the throat? Jalandhara? I think that might be right.
Maybe.
But I can't remember the name of the chakra. Anyway, we have to get, I think Suze would be dope for this. Suze can give like a whole lecture on the chakras because she's leading teacher trainings. Yeah. But that's not the direction you've taken yet.
No. I'm not. Like I said, if you told me I'd be teaching you yoga, I'd be like, you're crazy. I go back and forth with it all the time. Yeah. I'm the gatekeeper to it. You look at me, you see me do it. The definition of anybody can do this is right there. But should I be in front of the classroom of 30 people trying to get their life together when my life is never together? Like, I always go back and forth with that. Like, people rely on me. I'm a big number person. And for some reason, like, when I woke up, the thing that stuck out to me the most was like how much time and energy I spent my day at a job that, like, I was moderately wealthy, but at the same time, 10 hours of my day went there, another 8 went to sleeping, and 6 hours to do laundry and fucking prepare to do it again tomorrow. And just with the number thing, I always think about that when it comes to yoga, that if someone gives me an hour, 15 minutes of their day, they only got 24 hours in a day. They already spent half of it at work. They already spent it sleeping. I have to deliver, at least not deliver like it's. You can't save everybody. I always ask the universe to speak through me. If you got a message, speak through me. Get Ralph out of the way. If you got a message to one of these jabronis in the crowd, let it go through me and let it just flow out of me. But I go back and forth with that. Like, a lot of days I show up to the studio and I'm like, man, I'm having a terrible day myself. Like, the last thing I need to do is try to organize 30 people and get them in a relaxed state for the rest of the night. But, I believe it was Spider-Man that said, with great powers come great responsibilities. And I am this heavyweight dude that is literally, people see me and see me do it, and it catches attention. When I first started teaching, it was like 2019, COVID happened and everybody was moving over to their at-home yogas where everybody like I had to unfollow so many people during COVID just because everybody's home workout and everybody did their yoga every morning. And I was like, man, I can't stand watching this myself. I'm like, as a male, how do I market myself in yoga? And I just started doing like cartoons. I had a friend, Dirtybird, who was known for making like visual graphics for people's album covers in the early 2000s in the city. And I was like, yo, can we take this concept of these flyers you make for hip hop albums and make them into yoga event flyers?
Whoa.
And he was like, that's a dope idea. He was like, never thought of it. Let's run with it. And I started making these. It was like me and cartoons. Like it started out like whatever our stoner minds would think of. It'd be like me dunking on a Dalai Lama for a $5 drop in. And me like as like $5 bills was me as Abraham Lincoln. And
I love it.
And it started catching on in the city. People actually started like graffiti people started fucking with me. They're like, yo, who's this dude posting these? Nobody thought it was real. Nobody thought I actually was out teaching yoga. They're like, this dude's just like, it's like some comedy shit. Like this boy's parodying it. But I started running with that and it caught a little bit of flavor. Like people started recognizing me and they started calling me Yoga Ralph, like off my Instagram handle. And throughout the years of grinding and teaching, like I've been teaching literally, I can't tell you how many hours I fucking taught in the last couple years. The amount of men that show up now as opposed to when I started is like monumental. I always considered myself, I don't know if you're like a 90s sports fan, Brian.
Please.
I coined the term, I'm the Brian Bosworth of yoga. Like I'm the loudest looking dude that brings your eyes to it, but I ain't winning the championship. Like I'm not like nowadays I sell myself short. That's how I used to think back in 2019. Like I'm like these girls fucking study. I don't even know the sutras. Like they're about it. I'm like I'm just up here like stretch, inhale, exhale. Like
that's a lot though.
But it is. It's like I said, it's the gatekeeper aspect of it. More so, don't do what I say, but do what I do. You see me doing it, give it a try yourself. If I'm not your cup of tea, someone else will be your cup of tea. I know that for sure.
It's interesting you use the word gatekeeper, right? In DJ culture, we often talk about gatekeepers as the old heads who try to keep people from starting to DJ.
Yeah.
They're actually blocking people. They're the gatekeepers. They're preventing entry.
Nah,
You're using it in the exact opposite
I use it
way.
the opposite. I look
You're
at it
sort
as
of like
the new Joe Rogan-esque. Like Joe Rogan is kind of like the gatekeeper. He introduced me to float tanks, things like that.
Yeah.
And he's another yoga enthusiast too. I never did hot yoga until they started doing hot yoga. They did that Sober October, and I'm like, I'm like, man, I could do 30 classes in a month. That ain't shit.
Yeah.
It kind of catches up though every night of sweating. But
do you want to be lighter?
I do want to be. That's the never-ending struggle. As a fat kid, I don't know, with a body dysmorphia, I guess. I don't know. I recently, from the last time we encountered, I lost 25 pounds because we shot a little skit where my shirt was off, and I was like, God damn, Ralph, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I had broke my ankle. We were talking about this outside. A hawk broke my ankle in May of last year. And that's a whole nother spiritual path journey type discussion. But this hawk was fucking key-hawking me and swooping down at me. I'm walking on this trail. I give it one of these look-ups. Next thing you know, I step off the trail. I see just, like, if you ever got punched in the nose, I saw that white flash. And I just took 2 steps, and I felt like the bone moved to the back of my shoe. And I was like, I think I might have to call an ambulance. Because I was like a quarter mile from my car already. I was like, I don't know if I could walk down the hill. I ended up finding a tree stump and making like crutches like I was fucking Rambo and got to my car. But a hawk did it to me. And I talked to a couple shamans about it and asked why this hawk did this to me. And it was really stupid reason. When I look at it, it's a stupid reason. I really don't care for this hawk or animals no more because of it. But they told me it was so I would reach out to an ex-girlfriend because I still had to relay a message. Like, I guess we crossed paths in this life, so I was supposed to tell her some shit. So I fucking, of all people, the first night, I'm like, I had an old bottle of ibuprofen in my house, and she's a doctor, and I'm like, I'm looking on Google. I'm like, if I eat this old ibuprofen, I don't even eat ibuprofen because I'm an anti-Western medicine, everything. I already know that shit destroys your kidneys, but I was like,
unless you break your leg.
My eye hurt so bad that night, and I'm like, I got this old ibuprofen. Maybe I eat a couple and it helps. So I just happened to message her, and I'm like, yo, this shit expired in 2021. Like, if I eat it, is it gonna fucking make my kidneys shut down? I'm like, cause I could suck it up till the morning and get it in the morning. And she responded back, and she's like, I'll bring you some. And next thing you know, like, we're back at it. And I guess I maybe delivered the message in between that. I hope I delivered that message. I hope you fucking, if you hear this and you didn't get the message.
You guys were back together for a little while or something?
We did get back
like,
together off of that for a little bit.
But was it a good,
no, it was
good
bad.
decision?
No, it wasn't a
It
good
doesn't
decision.
sound like you guys ended up
It wasn't
together,
a good decision. I feel like that's some people fake the funk on that shaman shit. I'm like, that seems like you just reached a little bit on that.
Yeah, I have a good book.
It did make me reach
Language
out
of
to her
Animals.
though. Like, had I not broke my ankle, I'd have never ever called her again. It'd never happen.
It's a book about how to find your animal shaman. So how to identify what your spirit guide will be for this life. And so there's different techniques that you can use in order to identify. I think mine is the wolf, and I
was told the wolf too.
Yeah.
I feel like
but it's all about finding the pack, right? That's why wolves. There's a lot of interesting things about wolves, but that's one.
The person I spoke to with this, we were talking about it. She does a lot of tarot cards. She does a lot of past life readings. Her name's Rebecca Bloom. Readings with Rebecca.com. Wonderful lady. She introduced me to. She was the connect on the ayahuasca journey, which we'll probably get into later.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
And she would do readings on me, and she would tell me my past life. And we got to talking, and I'm like, how come I never see like signs? Like what are my animals? I'm like, I was like, I see squirrels, I feed squirrels. I'm known for squirrels and cats. I have 2 cats, and I feed the squirrels in front of my house. I call the one Fuzzy Nut and the other one Nutmeg. I just assume their genders. I assume one's male and one's female. And I throw them fucking unsalted peanuts, and they're pretty chill. I'd never pick one up because they carry the plague, but I think it's funny. I think it's funny that like I'll open my door and they'll run up to me like a real pet.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what's my spirit animal? And she's like, your parents are both around you as wolves. And I'm like, really? I'm like, I figured my mom was a big owl person, and I knew my dad. Like, my dad used to talk about it. He's like, I'm going to be an eagle when I'm fucking free. Like, and I always would see big birds and think that's my dad. Like, I'd be like, that's a sign from the universe. But she told me it was wolves. And since that day, I've been looking for wolves. I'm going to walk out in the street. I'm going to go to Walmart. Someone's going to have a wolf howling on their shirt. I'm going to be like, that's the sign. Never fucking happened.
I saw coyotes out west when I was in LA.
I saw a coyote
wander in
one
the streets.
time in my life. Not in the streets, though, in the woods. Same place where I broke my ankle, same trails. Imagine that. Broken ankle, coyotes get me later that night if I can't make it to the car.
You said something interesting, like before I had my shit together, something like that. Like before I figured it out, or before I came on the line. Like, what did you mean by that?
Well, everybody has that. Well, not everybody has that. If everybody had it, it'd be a good thing. When they have that, just that snapping moment. I call it the falling down moment, where instead of just killing everybody, you're just like, you know what? I fucking quit, and this is what I'm going to do now. And my falling down moment was just, my whole life, I did dirt. I was what you would call a gangster. I don't want to incriminate myself, but I I the only law I didn't break was littering, basically, in my life. And I always cut grass. Grew up poor. My mom had multiple sclerosis. My dad was legally blind. I don't know what my dad was able to see, but we barely scraped by. When I was like 12 years old, I realized like I could cut my neighbor's grass, make $20. That way I could eat fucking lunch. I could buy fucking shoes if I needed, whatever the fuck it. Next thing you know, I graduate high school. I start a business called Powerhouse Lawn Care, where I had a partner, Nick Rodman, where we fucking, like the first years, like we had no money. We would just pull up in a pickup truck, 2 lawnmowers, bang, bang, make a couple $100 each week. Next year, we'd invest in a walk behind trailers. Like I did that for like, from like when I was 12 till I was about 25. When I was 25, that's like when I had that moment. My mom had a massive heart attack, and I realized like, tomorrow isn't promised. 1, 2, I'm out of shape. I don't even know what I weighed. I probably weighed like 350 pounds when I was my heaviest. I'm like, you're going to die just like this. My mom was 62, had a massive heart attack, and just, it was a weird situation. I don't want to say the hospital killed my mom, but they didn't fucking save her life. But that's a story to talk. That's well before Obamacare, long before all that other shit came into play. But
have you ever talked to Real Deal about it?
I know the real deal
PK,
story. I know
or,
the real deal story.
Trying to think who else. PK has a story. Who's not PK anymore? Now it's Harlan.
I know. I see him at church. Good for PK.
You mean you see him because you're also at church?
I go to church every once in a while. I'm a very spiritual person. I believe in it all.
I love church, synagogue. I go to as many as I can.
It's a community thing to me.
Totally.
It's a community thing.
Yeah, I miss going to church. We used to go to church a lot in Charleston, but haven't really found our spot out here yet.
I show up 15 minutes late and I leave 15 minutes early. I just want to hear some
music, right?
No,
you go for the sermon or for the music?
I skip the music. The music gets on my nerves.
Really?
I don't like the rock band shit in your face.
Well, you got to find the right spot.
I grew up as a Catholic.
Yeah.
And that's like culty. I try going to a Catholic church on Christmas.
Yeah.
Every year,
Midnight
just to sing the fucking Christmas carols, because that shit's all vibration, just like any other healing medicine.
Totally.
But yeah, I'll sneak into church every once in a while, and I'll see PK there.
You and I can do Christmas carols.
I try to go once a month.
We can go wassailing.
Wassailing? Here we go, wassailing? Is that what?
Wassail all over the town.
I just know Americanized jingle bells.
Yeah, I did landscaping too, man. There's so many parallels between us, right? It's like,
But as I was saying, thank God you got me. We started talking about church and PK Pooch.
Yeah.
Harlan, the artist formerly known as PK, now he's known as Harlan. Hey, good for him, man. He had a rough life. He had a lot of weird circumstances happen to him lately, and I'm glad to see that he's doing good. He got shot. Like, I don't know if he got shot before he did your podcast or like
came on my
after.
podcast with a walker, dude.
Yeah, he still walks with that walker. He's disabled at the moment, but give him time. That just happened recently, so I don't know how that works. I've never been shot before, but as I was saying, I cut grass till I was like 25, and I had that moment where I don't know, after I made funeral arrangements for my mom, I had to take care of my dad full time, and I really thought about the landscaping. The last couple years when I was like 23, 24, me and my business partner, not so much had a falling out, but he was doing a lot of things he shouldn't have been doing. He was partying a little bit too hard, and he was in the streets way too hard. And in his opinion, the streets were calling way more than the fucking lawn care money. And one morning, I was just going to ask him, I was going to be like, yo, I don't think you want to do this shit no more. Like, what do you want like bailed out with? That morning, it was like the universe, God. I always say God does your heavy lifting. He pulled up and he's like, you know what, man? He's like, I'm tired of doing this shit. He was like, you want it? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, he threw me a weird ass, and I don't even know where he got this ballpark number from. And I was like, you know what? cool, I'll pay it. We'll make that in a month.
Yeah, to
And,
buy them out so that you could keep the gear, basically.
And I
that you'd
started,
all work together.
I started with just the name and the lawns. We had a lot of lawns. Like we'd cut 80 weekly. We cut like 120 a week. On average, we had 80 weekly and like 60 bi-weekly. That would average out to 30 extra a week. It was bro. It reminded me of New Jack City. I used to tell all my gangster friends, I'm like, bro, you're throwing rocks at the penitentiary. I'm throwing rocks in rich people's yards and tripling my money. I'm like, are you tripling your? I'm like, I know selling drugs is cool, but like, I'm tripling my money, like doing this shit. And everybody, like, it's legal and everybody wants it. The IRS fucking loves me. I'm in a different bracket. And after I bought him out, I ran it for 2 years and like, I just didn't like it. I would think about it every day. I'm like, man, the money's great, but like every morning I wake up, I'm brushing my teeth. I'm like, I don't want to go to work. It might rain one day, and then next day I'm like working almost sun up to sundown. Like,
yeah.
And
well, lawns are fucking silly,
and
right? The whole idea of keeping a lawn is bizarre.
It's crazy.
Right?
Yeah,
it's literally
crazy.
all you're doing is eliminating the possibility of any animal, wildlife using that space to
destroy
live.
the whole ecosystem. I cut hedges, destroy
all
pollination,
you're doing.
all that.
Murdering little critters.
But at the same time, I'm making bank.
Making bank. But you're also right. You're also creating space. I mean, I'm not saying like I'll never have a lawn again. I definitely had a decent lawn in Charleston.
I like to cut my own grass. I like to cut my own grass. Yeah. I don't want to cut all these strangers' grass no more. But I had that epiphany moment. Like I was out there cutting grass by myself.
Fescue. And
it just hit me. It was like, bro, you really want to do this tomorrow? And I'm like, I don't want to do this tomorrow. I was 28 years old and I was like, I'm going to retire. I was like,
yes,
fucking retire. I knew a guy who wanted to buy my business solely to get me out of the way. I love his hunger. He's the best. I'm not going to name drop him. He's one of my, I'm still cool with this dude, but he literally was like, I just want your $100 a week lawns. He was like, I don't give a fuck about like, when I sold it, we had a little bit under 200 lawns altogether. And just like, dude, that's such a responsibility to have every week. Like I got to be at 200 different places this week. And then next week, and then next week for like 32 weeks out of the year. And like, I don't know, we could do winter shit too. Like put up Christmas lights if you want. That was the sick hustle. And we could do snow removal, things like that. But
yeah.
I'm 20. I'm just cutting grass one day after my mom died. I'm taking care of my dad on the side. My dad didn't get real sick just yet. But I'm like, man, this is not what I want to do. And I was like, I'm going to finish the year out. I'm going to make this thing worth as much money as I can. I'm going to weed it out myself. I'm going to get rid of these every other week lawns. I'm going to give them the up and coming people that want to start businesses. Here's 10 lawns in this neighborhood. Here's 10 lawns in this neighborhood. Just don't fuck it up. Thank me later. I sell it and I give it up. And it was like a whole nother burden was off my shoulders. I'm like, all right. At the time, too, like, I'm not in the best shape. I'm over 300 pounds walking every day, sweating my ass off. I'm eating Wendy's every day for lunch out on the road because I'm just, I'm everywhere, just never home cutting grass. I would always joke, like, I was paying a mortgage when all my friends were out at the bar at night. And I'm like, I just can't do it. Like, I got to get up and lay 52 yards of mulch at Rite Aid. And it's like, got to, like, no one else is going to do it. And I can't tell them I'll be there next week. Someone else will fucking do it or they'll realize someone else will do it cheaper. But I just had that moment where I was like, I don't want to do this no more. And everything snapped, mind, body, and soul. I was like, I don't want to do a job I don't want to do anymore. I don't want to be fucking fat no more. My whole life I battled with obesity. We talk about, like, I always had a weight bench in my basement. I always had a treadmill and an elliptical. I'd buy it 3 months on, nothing fucking happened. I'd give up. Played football, high school, all that shit. Thought of myself as a fucking big man athlete, but nothing ever stuck. After my mom died, my dad got really sick like 2 years later. his kidneys, he always had kidney issues. His kidneys fucking failed and they put him on dialysis. I was his primary care taker, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. I had to take him to and from appointments. He had to go 3 times a week, 4 hours a day. And then once a week, he had to go see this dude, Dr. Raza, the kidney doctor. And he would do the same shit they do at dialysis. They just fucking check his blood levels, make sure not too much potassium. I don't even know what it was.
Yeah, like electrolytes, blood
just
pressure,
make sure everything. They always
health
did.
Of
they
the
always
fistula. Right? Looking at the fistula.
He had a lot of problems with the fistula.
Yeah,
that's I have a
Many
lot of
people do. Do you know about peritoneal dialysis?
What is peritoneal dialysis? Is that the 8-hour at home?
Exactly. So this is a huge topic and not one that I'm an expert on. But what I've read,
a lot of fistula issues, man.
Yeah, exactly. What I've read, which is very interesting, is that in Europe they tend to use peritoneal dialysis, and in America we almost never use peritoneal. And the explanation I've been given, which I think is quite interesting, is that PD, peritoneal dialysis, puts the onus on the patient. The patient gets to control it themselves.
Yeah.
It's their own time. They do it at their own home.
My sister actually did that. She would do 8 hours.
They have to control their own dialysate and their own bath, but they don't need a fistula, right? So they don't have this abnormal connection between the arteries and veins in their arm, which causes a lot of problems, can get infected, right? Can cause a lot of issues with blood pressure and access and all kinds of clots. And so it escapes that need. In America, we have this massive industry, right, of the dialysis center. You don't need a dialysis center if you have peritoneal dialysis. PD doesn't need a dialysis center. So, what's the big hemodialysis center here?
DaVita.
DaVita, yeah, exactly. So DaVita is a multi-billion-dollar industry, I believe, or at least
there's them
dialysis.
Dollar Generals everywhere in McKeesport.
Yeah, dialysis is a multi-billion-dollar industry, right?
Yeah.
So the idea
$3,300 a day. And then once a week it was an extra $7,000 for
they wouldn't want you doing it on your own is the point.
Yeah.
They wouldn't want you doing it on your own at home. That would, take a chunk of their profit away. That'd be like if I cut my own grass.
Well,
when you were running
I remember specifically it don't just happen. It does happen to people, but we knew it was coming. Doctor would tell him, Joe, your fucking levels are low. You're going to end up needing dialysis. And he would always stick to his guns and be like, when it happens, I'm just going out. That's my time.
Oh, wow. He made it clear he didn't want it.
He didn't want it. They did it to him anyway. The hospitals are sketchy. That was the worst day of my life. But he had really good insurance, retired from the mill. Mr. Magoo, he got punched when he was 18 years old. He was trying to be an amateur boxer. He got punched in his temple and it knocked him fucking blind. I don't know what he could see, but I know I got away with so much shit growing up because he couldn't fucking see.
Wow.
He never really talked about it until his last days. He would tell me, I'd ask him, I'd be like, what do you dream? Do you dream stuff? And he would tell me I dream, but it's in black and white. And he was like, it's what I remember when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's
I had a patient
crazy,
who was blind who told me that they had hallucinations, and I had to ask them what they meant because, of course, blind people don't see things the same way we see things. So
I was going to say because he was able to see, he at least knew I don't know. So there's a big difference
born blind versus
between born
becoming
blind. But since he was 18, he was blind. But I don't even remember where we were going on.
Yeah, we're talking about your wake up moment about mind, body, and soul all aligned. And
I
said,
was like, I gotta
keep living
I
like
can't.
this.
Yeah, I was like, my dad got real sick, and that day especially the first time he was dialyzed, he came in, he was wrapped up like a fucking mummy, and the amount of shock from the stress of them sucking his blood out and putting it back in the first time, he was out of it, and I just remember that day. It was if I ever became an actor and I needed to cry, that's what I think about was just how fucking kilt he was laying there. And I didn't know, the doctor kind of prepped me in the hallway. They're like, you're not going to like what you see. And he was like, you just have to be tough because someone got to be fucking tough right now. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? He came in, it was like fucking Hannibal, and he's telling me all this shit. He's like, they flew me to the Rivers Casino. Your brother was there. My brothers were all around me. He's just, I don't know if he's like hallucinating or what. But I was like, just I let him talk. He's like, all this shit. He's like, they fucking, all these bright lights, helicopters and shit like that. And he's like, next thing you know, I'm here. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to try and feed you. And I just remember the hardest thing I was doing. Like, I wasn't sure if he could see my face or anything. I was like, just don't. I was bawling my fucking eyes out. I'm like, don't let the fucking tears hit him. I'm like, he can't. I'm like, he's so fucked up. I was like, he can't know that he's this fucked up. Like,
Wow.
and that day hit me so hard. I went in my car and I was just like, Ralph, this is going to be you. And this is going to be you in 5 years. I'm like, you're like 350 fucking pounds. Like, bro, you fucking out of breath from just trying to feed them. Like, this is going to be you. And if you have kids, they are going to feel what you're feeling right now. And then from that day forward, I was just like, no more booze, no more fucking Wendy's, no more sugar. Like, if I eat sugar, it's once a year on my birthday. And I already decided this year we're skipping my birthday. I'm teaching my classes and I'm going home that night.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out later. I'm not too happy about 40, but
Birthdays are for gift giving, man. The Hobbit got it right?
Yeah,
What is the birthday celebration in the Shire? In the Shire,
there's no better place I'd rather
buy
be
gifts
than the
for
studio.
all your friends and you give them out. That's what a birthday is.
But that moment, I was like, there is way more important things in life than going to work for 8 hours a day at a job I hate. Why? So I can retire when I'm fucking 60? Bullshit. We ain't going to be able to retire when we're 60. We'll be lucky if we live to be fucking 60 in this world.
Plus, there's no health left at that point.
Yeah.
These people work
What's
their
the point?
entire
You
lives
work your entire
for
life
this
to what?
idea of a retirement.
To be
Once
retired
they
for
hit
5 years.
65, their knees are bone on
Yep.
bone. Their back is
What
bone
good
on
is
bone.
traveling the world
They
when
can
you
barely walk.
when you
They
sleep
go
all
on
day?
these cruises
Yep.
and sit in their room. They sit at the table and get fed this slop, and then they see the sights from the side of the boat.
But-
Do they even get rolled off the side of the boat in order to explore where
Nah,
they're
it's-
going? It's a fantasy.
And I know I'm not the only one that had that like epiphany where it was like, what are we doing? There's a million starving artists. You know, a million of them. You hang out with them. You yourself are one. Like, you have a 9 to 5, but at the same time, you know that's not what you want to do.
Being a doctor?
Yeah.
No. I'm all about it. I love it. I do. And I'll be
But
able
at
to
the same
I'll be able to pivot it
but it-
into exactly what I want it to be, which is giving people health, giving people their lives back, and I do feel like I'm doing that
Well, that's
much of the day.
That's what happened
Rescuing
to me.
people from bad
When
decisions that
I-
other doctors made,
I woke up.
rescuing people from themselves, giving them better advice, helping them live healthier, happier lives. That's what I feel like I'm doing. And that's what gives me
I
meaning.
woke up that day and said the same thing. Like, I want to make sure my dad got the best care he could get. I'm going to do it myself. I need to be on the clock. Like, I can't be cutting grass. So sold that shit just to take care of him. And I read a book. It was called The War of Art. And just after I read that, I was like, I can't tell you right offhand who wrote that. Someone recommended me to it. It's literally like a 30-page read. After I read that, I was like, you know what? If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something I enjoy. I'm already mixed up in this fitness journey. I get caught up in the yoga and I'm like, I don't know. Something just kept pushing me towards it, saying like, dude, you're in the right spot. You're doing it. And I just said, fuck it. I don't care if I make $100,000 a year. As long as I fucking have freedom and my time on my hands, I'm just going to go all in with this concept of bet on yourself, because no matter what, you can't lose. So what if I fucking fail at this? I'll go get a job somewhere. I could start up a lawn care tomorrow. My credit's 1,000,000 times better than it was 25 years ago when I fucking was out here doing it. It's a new day on top of it too. What do I need to cut grass for? I need to pay someone to cut grass. I need to make enough money for that. That'll all come in time, but I'm not like, I don't chase it like I used to. Like, I used to eat, sleep, and breathe being a millionaire. Now I'm just like, the universe got me. I don't know. I haven't worked in years. I retired with no real plan, and I just don't work. And people ask me how I do it, and I'm like, it ain't you. You got to be built for this life. I'm like, I don't know. It's a mind frame. I just believe that no matter what I sink my energy into, it's going to succeed. And that's whether, like, I never in my wildest dreams thought my bills would be paid off just going in front of a room for an hour and telling motherfuckers to touch their toes. I never thought that shit would happen. Like, and had I continued on that path of cutting grass every day, making the big money, I'd have never took the time to walk into a gym. I'd have never took the time to walk into a studio. Had I never walked into a studio, I'd have never met the people that are in my life right now. Because, like, I have a few people in my life that I've known since like 1996 that I still fuck with. Narf, who's one of our, you met Narf probably down the studio. He's one of the flatmates with us. Known him since 96, and my boy Bacon. Like, me and Bacon literally go out and eat every Friday. It's like a bro thing. It's almost like the therapy thing. Like, he got to get away from his girl, or his girl wants him to fuck away from him, and it's the same thing. So we go and fucking get wings or fish on a Friday and a couple beers. But that's just, I don't know. The life choices you make, they might not, like, people look at me. Some people always tell me they envy my life, and I'm like, I envy your life. Like I don't know. It's like I sacrifice money for freedom, and with that freedom, it allows more money to like flow. It's a weird, I don't know. It's like a weird Ram Dass.
It's very
flow
interesting
state.
because people often think of money as a source of freedom, that
Yeah.
once you have enough money, that will create freedom in your life. But it sounds to me like that wasn't your experience.
No, it was the opposite. As soon as I gave up chasing the dream and realized how much time I had, and then what I did with my time, like I did wild shit. Like, I don't know. Between like, I literally made like the biggest 180. I disappeared for a year and just worked out in my fucking basement, lost 100 pounds, showed up. Nobody knew who the fuck I was. They're like, who's this dude? I'm like, it's fucking Ralph. Like, and next thing you know, I'm fucking teaching yoga. Next thing you know, like from that, like I've always been a shy person too. I've never been the person that was comfortable speaking in front of an audience. It's one of the hardest things to do. To this day, I don't know anything scarier than speaking in front of a group of strangers.
That's what we're doing.
Like,
That's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Good practice.
Well, if there was 30 people I had to make eye contact with as I'm choking up here, it would be crazy. But like I always dreamt of being a stand-up comedian, but I don't think I'm built for it. It's like, it's a different ballgame. But when it comes to long-form conversation, I feel like I'm pretty decent at it. I feel like I'm a good listener more than I am a speaker. And without yoga, I'd have never started podcasting. I'd have never had the balls to fucking. I used to think about podcasting back in the day as like Bill Burr. I'd think of the OGs that started it, and I'm like, that's just them guys talking to themselves. They're way funnier than me. Nobody wants to hear me talk. Nobody cares what I think about the Super Bowl. Nobody cares what I think about fucking ramen noodles. Like, what the ball's on me to think that people are going to be tune in every week and be like, I wonder what Ralph's thinking this week. Like who the fuck is Ralph? But I end up in the fucking game. Like, and it came from speaking in front of a crowd where it just start with yoga, now open up on the mic. Like, I feel like since I met Neighbor and we started doing the Anybody Can Do This show, that like, it's almost like a reality show. If you follow me on Instagram, you know more about me than like my neighbors even know about me, just from seeing what I'm up to on the internet. And I was never, ever like that. I was always reserved. I was always that gangster mentality. Don't even talk to me on the phone. Why would I be on Instagram where the government can see every little thing I do?
Because you went legit.
Yeah, but I still I still think of that though. I'd love to be off the grid. Things like Facebook still make me sick, but I still have to use those as tools to promote the gongs and things like that. Even though, like, I don't know. Are you on all? I'd imagine you're
Not
on
on
all.
Facebook.
You're not on Facebook.
No, I quit it about a decade ago.
Are you on?
Took all my photos and quit. And it's interesting, right? Because I'm still on Instagram, and it's exactly the same thing. There's really no difference. It's two sides of the same coin. You know, it's the same product, but marketed for a slightly older audience or something, or slightly younger.
The algorithms are a little bit different
Yeah.
on each. I find when I use Instagram that Instagram is a lot more lenient when it comes to like we'll make them what's good in the hoods, and we never ever have cleared music. Everything is always copywritten. And Facebook every single time pulls it. And not only do they pull it, but they punish me like the next video I drop will get shadow banned where nobody will see it. And it's weird. Facebook to me is very weird. I always hated Facebook. I dropped it. I dropped it, like you said, 10 years ago, and then I had to refire it back up in 2019.
Yeah.
Because just because like
yoga and getting people out, right? I mean, it's
just the yoga thing. It was like
there's a whole generation.
We had a whole yoga
Facebook.
group on Facebook.
Yeah,
and I've signed back up, and I'm like, man, this thing is the worst. But
the groups are big, but I'm trying to replace it with email, right? Instead of it being all about what they own of my content, I want it to be all about what I own of my content. What do I own? I own a list of email addresses, a list of cell phone numbers, a list of names. That's what I own. My content should be getting pushed in that way. That should be the primary method. And really, it should be all about getting people to sign up for my mailing list. The more emails you have, the more power you have. That's truly the way. And all of the social media is just a filter. It has to go through a filter in order to get to people. They're always going to be able to shut you down. If they don't like what you say, you're gone. If they don't like, it doesn't matter if it's legal or not, ever. If they don't like it, you're done.
I live by the motto, it's not your net worth, it's your network. It's all about who you know and what you know. And like you said, if you have a list of emails, straight to the source product. That is the American way.
Yeah,
farm the table.
That's definitely where I'm trying to work. Yeah, that's where I'm trying to work. That's where I'm trying to live. I mean, I get it. Having, Instagram Reels does bring people to the show, and I'm okay with that. But I'm on YouTube, and YouTube is a whole nother ball of wax, whatever. But the one other one that I wanted to bring up before I forget is Eddie Stern. So we were, again, talking about feminine and masculine aspects of yoga. You were talking about some of these male teachers, and the lineage that I went through. Again, Dom's teacher and Lindsay's teacher was an Ashtangi named Eddie Stern, who's sort of famous because he's in the original Sri Patabi Joyce video where he's teaching Brian Swenson, Eddie Stern, and a few of these other women the primary sequence. You have to watch the video at some point. But it's an unbelievable video. I'll link to it. And it's just 12 people in a room, all on mats, and he's calling out the primary sequence of Ashtanga. I don't know if you've ever gotten into Ashtanga yoga, but it's really the most pure form to me. There's a few different candidates for the most pure type of yoga, but Ashtanga is up there. There's almost no question that if you go to, I can't remember the little town in India where you study with Patabi Joyce and you learn Patabi's son now, and you learn the original way. That was like what these Ashtangis were into, and they're all vegan. Many of them are vegan. Many of them are do no harm. Many of them have this kind of very puritanical belief. They don't use blocks. They don't use, there's no supports. They don't use straps. It's like, if you can't reach your toe, break your knee so that you can reach your toe. You know what I'm saying? Break your elbow, like just grab the thing, and they'll twist your body into it. It's very hands-on. A lot of that kind of adjustments, like mandatory adjustments. Every pose you're in, you're being adjusted by your teacher, which is the tradition that I come from, which is really a very different experience to being here, where no teachers touch. I don't even know if you all get trained in hands-on adjustments.
I've been trained thoroughly in hands-on adjustment, but as a man, I am not trying to end up on the 11 o'clock news because I adjusted the wrong person. I'm certified in Reiki. I got all that goofy shit.
Yeah.
But I don't like touching people. I'm not a big handshaker.
Wow.
That's one thing, like, I've been famous for, like, anytime I've ever been on a podcast, I always talked about that. Like, everybody got different energies. And if you seem like your vibe is off, I don't want to shake your hand because I don't need you fucking my day up. And,
touch is powerful.
it's super powerful.
It's an energy exchange. And just think about sex, right? Think about like the energy exchange of a casual sexual encounter in the South Side or wherever it was. And just how much you're sacrificing that you can't even imagine how much of yourself goes into that exchange. Not even talking about the possibility of creating life.
Right? not even playing God for a second and creation.
Because that's always a possibility, right? There's always the possibility.
That's the idea of it. That's how
life
powerful
generation.
It is.
But that moment where you're touching and exchanging and the gaze, I mean, the gaze is incredibly powerful.
Your left eye is the window to the soul.
But that activity of exchanging energy in that way, you have to be ready for it. And I think I was very, very, very much too cavalier with that type of energy exchange in my youth. And that's one of the things that I've been working towards getting healthier about.
I started noticing how energy worked around like 2016. I started noticing those things where it was like, sometimes I'd give someone a hug and then I'd walk away and be like,
catching demons.
What do you got?
Catching demons. That's what my wife calls it. Going to the club and picking up demons.
Went up and fucking fell. But I always carried that into it. I am not a fan of casual sex at all. Like, I might not kiss you for a while because I don't know what is going to happen, what type of spark is going to pop. And I know my energy is, I'm the high, I joke all the time, I'm the Highlander. I'm literally the last of my bloodline. And my body is telling me, all these powerful shaman people tell me, they're like, you have to spread your seed and carry that name. And I'm like, I don't know about that. Like, I don't know if I want that right now, or if I don't even know if I want to go the kid route. I always said I don't want kids, but I know my dad had me when he was 50 years old. I know, like, our seed is strong. Like, I know our lineage.
In your 60s, 70s, you're good.
I do know that,
but it's not so much fun having like
no. If my dad,
you don't get to meet the grandkids.
If my dad had me when he was 30, my whole life would have been way different. I'd bet he'd have been able to keep up with me and at a time, but
but you're going to be healthier. I mean, you're a very different type of person.
True.
Right?
You never know.
You have the yoga, your weight loss journey.
Know. I would hope to still be 60 years old deadlifting in the gym. That's a goal of mine, to stay after it. Your health is wealth. That's the one thing I learned. That's, like I said, the life-changing thing was not, I never had like a physical ailment besides pneumonia. You can hear it in my breath. I just came off of pneumonia. 14 days I laid on my back, and it, the mind fuck, like the infection, it felt like it went from my lungs to my brain, where I'm just like, bro, you're useless right now. If someone broke in your house, you're done. Like, you're fucking done. Like, and I'm like, this ain't even bad. I'm like, imagine if this was a stroke, dude. Like,
yeah, but it also maybe could have been a lot easier. Why didn't you just call for a Z-Pack, brah?
I'm big anti-Western medicine.
Okay, just do 14 days of misery instead.
Well, last time I was diagnosed with pneumonia, I went to the hospital and they just sent me home. They gave me a buterol steroid breathing treatment. They did a couple of fucking CT scans or whatever the fuck, whatever my insurance was down to pay for. They did it real quick, and they're like, got a little bit of fluid in your lung, but at the same time, we're gonna send you home. And I'm like, cool. They gave me an inhaler. That was it. Yeah. And they gave me a pulse ox to check my oxygen. They're like, if it goes below 94, come back here.
Sounds like what
it was at
like
COVID. 89.
Sounds like what they did for COVID.
Honestly, it was in the middle of COVID. This was in the middle of COVID.
Wow.
That's why they told me they needed they asked me.
That's why they didn't give you anything.
Yeah, they were kind of
had to save space for the people that were actively dying.
I waited in the waiting room so long that if I drove myself, I'd have just went home that night. My boy dropped me off at the hospital, and by the time I got from check-in to a bed to actually talk to somebody, was like almost like 14 hours. I just remember sleeping in the hospital.
the worst. It's amazing to be able to. What are the things that you do that have contributed to your health? Like, what are the choices that you're making now? You talked a lot about giving up booze but you haven't gotten into too many specifics about
Well,
what your exercise regimen is. What is your spiritual practice? What are the things that you do to stay well?
my biggest thing is it, people always find it surprising is I enjoy running. I'm a 5 mile a day runner, dude. I From Christmas Day, I started what was called 75 hard. If you ever heard of that, I fucking failed. I hate myself for it. I got to restart. I'm going to start on February 25th, and then I'm going to go in the goddamn fucking May of just not taking a break and just every morning I wake up. I either will go to yoga, do a little bit of light stretching on my own, or meditation, as I like to call it. I like to meditate in bed. I like to wake up and just start breathing first thing in the morning before I get out of bed. Usually I'll go to yoga. From yoga, I'll go to the gym always. I'm a gym person. One of my favorite things in life is to lift weights. I don't want to be a trainer, but I want to be paid to go to the gym. I wish every day someone would be like, "Oh, Ralph's here, give him $100." Like, thanks for coming in, dog, and hitting arms or whatever. But
You could do it as a social media influencer.
but I one day it may happen. You never know. But I'm a big gym person. I'm a 5-day-a-week lifter, no matter what. And then I'm a big cardio guy. I do 5 miles a day. I used to just do like 40 minutes. Then I broke my ankle and I got kind of fat over the summer. Like I said, at Christmas I was 256, and I was like, man, that's like a stone throw away from 300 again. And I'm like,
where do you want to be?
I'd like to be like 220. And I jumped on the scale today. It was 234. But
Yep.
I've been sick. I haven't been.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'10".
Oh yeah, 220 is pretty good. 220, 225
If I could get below
with a muscular build at
well,
5'10".
I am pretty solid underneath this. I got I got the biggest legs in Western Pennsylvania for like 5'10". But I'm a big gym person, and I'm a big rest person. I'm an 8-hour-a-day sleeper. We sleep good at night.
What helps you get good sleep?
I think it's because I push myself in the morning with the and weed helps. I smoke a lot of weed. Weed usually tuckers me out. And,
Before bed too, or just
pretty much all day, but it just wears on you to the point where I'm one of them dudes, like when I shut it down for the day, I go home and the minute my socks are off, I'm not putting new socks back on and leaving. That's it for the night.
Yeah.
If I put my feet up, I'm just literally like an old man. I'm asleep on the recliner, I'm asleep on the couch.
Wow.
The minute I lay down in bed, it's like 3, 2, 1, boom. I can't even meditate. That's how
Well,
I'll
but
fall
the
asleep
meditation in bed doesn't seem like a good idea.
Even
right?
when
because you'll
even
fall asleep.
even when I sit,
I would sit with the spine straight.
I feel like it's more of a like a lucid meditation when I do it in bed. Those are some of my favorite times, though. That quick 20 minutes. For all I know, I do go back to sleep for a second, but I wake up after that, and it's like, all right.
Yeah, there's this idea of the active non-sleep rest state that Andrew Huberman has pushed in the past, where you're not sleeping, but you're just lying down in order to intentionally engage with this restful state where you can relax your muscles, which is a big part of what sleep gives you. I
like to do a lot of yoga. Like I teach 2 classes a week myself, but I like to take 3 classes myself. I like to do one more than like I give. So if I give you 1 class a week, I got to definitely take 2. If I teach 5 classes a week, I got to take 10 classes. Like the balance.
How can you pay the bills teaching 2 yoga classes a week?
The universe provides. If you pack the house, you pack the house.
Yeah.
It's
some gongs, some extra curriculars.
Gongs are
podcast or more labor of love.
It's more of a labor of love. It's a hobby. I would love to generate money off it. We've generated a couple gigs, but nothing to brag about. But I would love that to be like, in a perfect world, I get to do what I do now at a salary I used to get paid when I worked my ass off. That's
Well,
the perfect world.
The perfect world is one where you
Where I get
run
up,
your
go
own
yoga,
business,
where I get up, do yoga, go to the gym, and then
but you're
spend
doing that.
3 hours at my own little business.
No, but you're doing that, right? You have your own business. You're a yoga instructor.
I know. I'm living.
but
I'm
teaching
living
class.
the dream.
Teaching
literally.
class is not how you make money as a yoga
I know.
person.
I
So
know.
the money in yoga comes from teaching privates,
Well, to me,
from leading
I do
teacher
that as
trainings, and from
teacher
retreat work. So retreat
Yep.
work, and for some people, for social media marketing partnerships.
Now,
So,
let me ask
but
you
those
this
four,
question.
it's really those four things.
As a male, you would be more inclined to come to a retreat if I offered you one, correct? Would you come to Tulum with me if I threw a retreat in Tulum? It's easier said than done.
So yeah, I mean, I think the person to talk about right now is Brian Peoples. So I went on a yoga retreat with a man to Tulum named Brian Peoples, and he's, to me, one of the most incredible teachers in the world. Just like you
Yeah.
said, you have this person. I want you to study with Brian. I want you to go to New York City with me. I think you and I need to drive to New York whenever you're ready. We're going to just go intent with the only intent being each of us gets a 2-hour private, 2-hour private with Brian. And it will transform you. It will change your life. The man, he has this Katona yoga lineage where he's learning from this woman, and I can't remember her name right now, but obviously it'll be in the comments, where she has an entire metaphor of life, of understanding the body as a house, where you know, the heart is the kitchen, the hearth, the mind is the attic, and you keep these kind of things stored away up there in the attic, and what is that? The basement is your feet. And I mean, it's just incredible, just the whole idea she has of teaching yoga. She has her own method, and he's been able to tap into that in a very powerful way. The other person who I think is really connected with Katona are the teachers who run Skyting Yoga. And Skyting Yoga is these two teachers, Chloe and another teacher who I'll remember and put in the notes. And then there's another one out in the West Coast who's amazing, who I would go to her class as well. I would go do a retreat with her as well. And she has like also a part of that lineage. But to me, the gender, I don't know how important it is. I think it's,
to me, it's a non-factor.
yeah, I think it's about training with the people who
Yeah.
have the lineage, who have the knowledge that I'm seeking. And it's the same thing anytime in life. When I'm looking for, when I'm looking for the knowledge, I want to go to the source. If I want to drink from a river, I don't want to drink downstream in Pittsburgh. I want to go to the fucking wellhead. I want to go where that initial stream comes from.
That's the way I do. I don't want to go to I don't want no cookie cutter bullshit. I want to go straight to the source. I want to go to the best of why wouldn't you want to mess with the 100%? Best of the best?
And that's why
it don't matter who you are. If I was told to see you,
yeah,
I should.
That's why I say learn from your legends. That's one of my things. And in yoga, the way to go, I think, when you come to a new city, if you want to try out a new studio, take from the studio head. Go to the studio owner's class first, and everything will spring from that. If you like their style of yoga, you'll like all the teachers that they've trained.
If you go to Yoga Flow, if you're fortunate enough to take a Dom class, holy shit, it's next level. Her breathing methods and just what she offers compared to what I could give you, and one day I could. You give me 1,000 hours of teaching in another year or two, we'll see where I'm at.
How did you get convinced or convince yourself to put in the investment in becoming a teacher and actually going to teacher training? And how did you pick which one to go to? And how did that work?
See, this is where the streets come back in. I was always a hustler. And one thing I thought to myself was, paying $140 a month or whatever to go to yoga, I need to get this for free. How do I get this for free? Get it for free by learning to fucking teach myself it. I don't have to go to the fucking studio and hug a pillow. I could do that shit at home. But I would go to this girl, Brittany Pusker's class. She would always be next to me in class. One day, all of a sudden, she started leading class. I ain't know nothing about teacher training or whatever. And she would announce it before her class all the time. Teacher training registration is coming up. And she would always market it as like, whether you want to advance your practice or take the next step. And in my head, I'm like, sounds a lot like yoga college. All right, I can't do an eagle arm. Maybe these gypsies teach me the fucking secret if I pay them $3,000. And I'm like, I'm going to sign up to, in my idea, I thought I was signing up to step my game up. I'm like, I'm going to go to yoga college. I'm going to learn the secrets in the hip sequences. And if there's any like things I need to know, like that I couldn't pick up on the internet or on a book or whatever. I end up going to, I went to the easiest one I knew. I'm already going to Yoga Flow. They're offering it. I've already encountered Dom, and I already know that she's a special person. And I met Michelle, she was the first class I took at Yoga Flow. And like I said, I literally said she's the best. There's not a better person in the Pittsburgh area than Michelle. Catch her in Shady Side, catch her in Aspinwall, catch her in, she's in Irwin. She hits them all up. She is a killer. Killer. I'm excited.
I'm really excited. This is dope.
That's a name I always
thank
tell
you. Michelle
people.
Planet. Michelle Planet. I can't wait.
Phenomenal.
Can't wait to take her class, man. That's dope. Yeah. Are you still doing hot yoga, or have you gotten away from it?
I take my Monday class, and then I teach. Everything I teach is hot except for like.
What do you think? Like what do you think is good about it?
At first, well, the amount of sweat that I sweat is sick. It gotta be detoxing, right? Like, and I think, like when I did yoga, when I did all the grandma yoga, I always did it in like sweatsuits. I always had socks on.
I don't think we lose any toxins through sweat. I think sweat is just liquid designed to cool us off when it evaporates. All of the detoxing happens in the liver.
I was gonna say when you wring your kidneys out and bind.
What does that mean?
That's my mindset when I teach yoga. When I put you
emotionally, yes.
When I put
physically,
you in a bind,
no. Emotionally, absolutely. Like you're
I'll put you
going into this space of challenge, and anytime you go through the window of the needle that the camel has to thread, the needle's gate, whenever you enter a narrowing, things get hard. And you're challenged, and you have to change your mind in order to get through it. Challenges bring growth.
Here's
expanding consciousness. That's what a challenge is. Just like a hallucinogen allows for growth. Because it's a challenge. It's something to overcome.
I do think when I make people wring their kidneys and livers out, it's part of. I'm a kidney dude, man. My dad was on dialysis, some big kidney wringer. In my own experience. When I twist,
yes,
the sweat just starts. It's like boys turn the faucet on, and I'm like, that muscle mind connection of at CT Fletcher in my head. I'm like, I just told my kidney empty out whatever the fuck is out there, and then just
kidneys carry urine. So if you empty your kidneys out, you piss your pants.
You ever? Nah. I mean,
that's true.
Whatever. I'm pushing something out. Whatever. In my mind, I'm wringing out my kidney, and that's what I would.
You don't want that. That would be bad.
If you come to my class, I put you in a supine twist. I'm going to say that. Wring out your kidney and half of your liver, and then twist the other side, get the other kidney, your other liver. It's a mind muscle thing to me. In my head, I think I'm wringing out my kidney.
There's 2 kidneys, 1 liver.
Yeah, but when you twist, you only get
multiple
half
lobes.
Of it.
That's dope. Actually,
when you twist the other side, you get the other side.
Yeah,
that's at least how I.
How crazy is it that it's an organ that can regenerate itself? It can regrow from one lobe. That's all you transplant into someone.
Your organs,
and it regrows into a full-size liver.
The body is a magnificent fucking thing. It's crazy. Have you ever had your kidney or not your kidney, but like your liver squeezed? I had
like body work type things.
I had a body work.
Yeah, some amazing
where
ones.
It started
from the guy who taught me to be a yoga teacher.
I was going to say
James Keegar,
like in your feet,
body worker,
like
amazing.
How you can hit your feet and it crush organs and shit. But I had a lady one time. I think we talked about this off record when I got COVID. I took the Joe Rogan approach to curing it.
Yes,
I was on a significant amount of vitamin D, like significant. And in my head, I was like, I'm gonna get this lady to fucking push it out of me. And she really grabbed up my liver and gave me like a liver massage. I remember when I peed after that, everything was like orange. But it was like one of the, and she literally squeezed it, and then she did a lot of work on my feet.
Yeah.
She would hit,
Yeah.
and it would like
In Chinese medicine,
bring
there's
tears to my eyes. Some of
every
the
organ
spots.
is represented in
Yes.
the feet, so you can access the brain through the big toe, and you can get to the liver through the pointy toe, and all the rest.
Eastern medicine is sick. That's why That's why I'm a big
It's
advocate
powerful
for it.
stuff. I mean, listen to this story. This is wild. This is one I just learned about. My mentor at work, it's one of the most brilliant people I've ever known. It's one of the reasons I came to Pittsburgh. Name's Lana Chaheen. She gave me a paper on beans and Parkinson's. Okay, why do beans matter in Parkinson's? Well, there's a bean, which is Mucuna pruriens, MUCUNA PRURIENS. And it has been used to treat Parkinson's for 3,000 years in India. We didn't even have a description of Parkinson's in the West until the 1700s. It didn't even exist until James Parkinson wrote it down in an essay in 1783 or something like that. And excuse me if I'm getting the dates wrong, of course, but the point is that they had us beat for thousands of years. Not only did they know what it was, they had a description, but they had medicine which treats it. And listen to this. Guess what that medicine contains? Guess what Mucuna pruriens contains in high concentrations? The same exact medication we use now in the West to treat Parkinson's. In high concentrations, it contains levodopa. Biologically active. They had that shit figured out.
Don't get me started on Western medicine. It's dollar bills, y'all. That's all that matters. If you got the money, then you got the
Incredible.
time. And you'll never ever get cured unless you're fucking fortunate enough.
It's a sick care system.
Yeah, it is. It's better than nothing, though. It's better than no system in
Run
place.
by an insurance company, right? So
but UPMC is the new steel mill. The steel mill's closed down. UPMC pulled up and turned it into a corporation.
Yeah, well, it's always interesting seeing those letters on the U.S. Steel building, right? I mean, that's like they really inked it with that.
Like,
hey,
look
US
at us.
Steel building. Here we go.
Biggest place in the city. We own it. We own you.
But it was U.S. Steel. I mean, it is the U.S. Steel building still.
Yeah.
They put their name on it, and then they'll go into Braddock and buy out the hospital, and it's like where people used to work in the mills, where they were building something. They were building skyscrapers in New York City. They were creating the steel that was used to put up the Empire State Building, to build the Empire State Building. And then instead, these people can no longer work in any kind of way where they're feeling like they're using their hands to make something. Now they have to work in the hospitals as janitors or as orderlies or in the kitchens, cafeterias. And what do they feel like they're doing? What's the emotional result
They're
of
just
that
showing
on
up
this,
every day for
on this
just doing the job
region?
9 to 5.
How does that change the spirit of the region? How can we have a Super Bowl winning franchise anymore? You know, in the 1970s, we were proud to be from here. Now, what do we make? What does Pittsburgh make anymore? Well, there's some startups. You know, there's some robotics firms that are interesting. Duolingo. We teach people how to speak a language. We've got Gecko Robotics, and we've got big DARPA grants at Carnegie Mellon.
And Carnegie Mellon's huge. The robotics stuff that comes out of Pittsburgh is amazing. But
it is. I think it's sad in a lot of ways.
Well, Eastern, they've had it right. I mean, I don't know too many people that haven't had healing effects from a lot of Eastern things, whether it is learning yoga which came from the East originally. That shit wasn't American at all. Or even like the plant medicines we get from, like, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about plant medicine. You could cure your cancer very easily with a heavy dose of ayahuasca, more than likely, if you're open to it.
You might forget about it.
I don't know, man. The things I've read up on.
You can cure addiction, I think. I think the addiction literature is very, very promising. This idea that a single dose of a hallucinogen, whether it's, like you said, ayahuasca, ibogaine, the literature on ibogaine is fascinating. and you take people down with alcoholism, where they've never spent a day without alcohol for years, and they take a single dose of ibogaine in a clinic in Peru and never drink again the rest of their life. And this medicine, because it is medicine, ibogaine, is a hallucinogen, and that's the reason it works. That's the reason all the other hallucinogens work for this specific indication, is because people were completely set in their ways, and it's like shaking a snow globe. It's like shaking an Etch-a-Sketch. The neurons are all super locked in. You can't think of any other way to exist other than as a drunk. And then when you shake that Etch-a-Sketch, new possibilities arise.
Yeah. It was very interesting what your mind is capable of and what a little bit of poison in your gut can do to it. Whether it comes from a vine or most of it comes from vine grapes and shit like that. The original wine, the original spirit medicine or whatever you want to call it. But it's amazing what you're able to produce visually in your head off these drugs, and the impact of having them, like you said, where I know a lot of people that cured their alcoholism with a Peru trip and the grandmother ayahuasca. I myself, when I took ayahuasca, I think I might have had 2 drinks since that day. I did ayahuasca in 2021, I believe, was that June of 2021.
Wow.
And
you were talking about your dinners, your Friday night dinners with your buddy, that you would have a couple beers with those, but that's like a thing of the past. Now you're drinking waters.
We went out yesterday instead of Friday because we got the plunge coming up. We got big work on Friday, but we went and got wings last night, and I ordered ginger ale.
Wow.
And I was like, normally I drink water, but I was like, you know what? I was like, I've been sick. Ginger ale's that grandma medicine. Like, I was like, I'll get a little bit of sugar in me.
Wow. So you really don't drink much anymore?
Not really at all. I found that to me, in my personal experience, it's stealing joy from tomorrow. And it just don't serve me anymore. And after I did ayahuasca, it took me a long time before I smoked weed again, which caught me very off guard. Me and Mary Jane, that's the only lady that's ever understood me. And I came out of that ayahuasca trip, and I was just like, Spirit says, don't fucking smoke that weed. You're going to ruin what you got going on right now. And it was like that for weeks. I had to like actually force myself to enjoy smoking weed. I'd smoke and get way too high and be like, God damn, ayahuasca was right. Told me not to fucking, told me to cut it out.
What do you think it is that makes people experience these agents, these medicines as personas or personalities? Or you keep on referring it to as basically like as the grandmother, right? Are these actual entities that are communicating with us from another dimension, from another planet, or is it just like the intelligence of the plants here, right? We know that plants have intelligence, and is it just that?
See, I could think about it all night and never give you a real answer of what it could be. Maybe a little bit of both. Maybe it is that plant energy communicating through your fucking intestines to your ears. But when I say the grandmother, anybody who's messed with the plant will tell you they know who she is, and she makes her presence felt. The only way I could describe it is if you've watched Stranger Things and you've seen what the upside down was. But picture that neutral, just like not dark and scary, just like almost like what they would tell you like being on a cloud in heaven would be like. That's kind of like where I thought I was not in this realm or this plane. I was not in the whatever we are, fourth, or I was in like the sixth or seventh dimension of where I was at. And there was just presences around me. And when I say the grandmother, like literally she made her presence felt. She would talk to me every once in a while, but like she would come in waves. just like a lot of like party drugs like Molly and shit, you might get a little wave of like euphoria or whatever, but it would come in waves where I would be in, I don't even know like what you call it, a trip state or whatever, and then she just pull up and whisper in my ear some shit. She gave me a few messages for a couple people in my life. She gave me one for Benny B, and she gave me one for my buddy Rick Bloss. She told me twice to tell Rick Bloss we're waiting for you. And the first time she showed up, she showed me his trauma. And it was like the first time I showed him, I just started crying. But it was like something out of a movie. It was like a 3-second, and then all of a sudden it was gone, and I'm smiling again. And I'm like, wow, like, man, he needs some fucking healing. And then I went in there with a full intention. Like I played the rules. I was the only one that listened to the rules. We got an email. There's these people, I don't want to like dry snitch on them, but the guy's name's Gray and her name is Jennifer. Could be anybody in America. But you could go to them, you could go see them in Hawaii, you could go see them in Peru, or they will come to you for $5,000, set up a place, no more than 6 people to keep it, I don't know. You don't want, you don't, everybody's throwing up and shit in their pants basically, but to keep it manageable and keep it ceremonial, keep the space fucking clean and pure. But I went in there with an intention of having no intention. Before I drank my cup, I was just like, tell me what I'm supposed to do. I drank that shit and like.
What was the taste like?
Motor oil. It was literally like motor oil. It was, he's like, Gray was like, drink it. He was like, no water though. He was like, I want you to drink it. I want you to fill this cup back up with water. Give it one of those little swirls with your finger and then drink that. And he was like, don't fucking drink nothing else until I tell you to do it or you're going to have a bad time. They hit me with this email. No one read the email but me. And it was like, no sex for a month.
Whoa.
Abstain from sex. That meant, to me, no jerking
including
on,
no
orgasm.
masturbation.
Yeah, no jerking off or whatever.
That makes sense. I think that's a form of sex. People don't
I
realize
rocked that for
I think
10 days. I read the email a little late, and I'm like, oh, shit, I shouldn't have busted a nut. They were like, they want you to hold all your energy.
Yes.
No turkey because of tryptophan. If you are somebody that needs medicine, you have to let your medicine down for 2 weeks before you take it. No anti.
Yeah, you might not.
And if you take antipsychotics, things like that, I'm sorry, you're not allowed.
Yeah,
you're
that's
not allowed
probably
with
smart,
us.
right? The SSRIs could interfere with the.
Yeah, we can't have no.
With the experience,
you're about
right?
to open up some shit that you like. Eventually, in a different controlled environment, absolutely, but like you have to not have any of those blockers in there. No sex, and they told me to fast for 48 hours prior. I gave it a 72. I was like, you know what?
Wow.
I'm like, we'll go in there.
So you were starving.
Oh, dude, I was hungry as fuck. I was so scared though that day that I couldn't have ate anyway. But I knew from the gist of it. I was reading up on it on Reddit. I'm watching YouTube videos. I know you're gonna throw up.
Yeah.
I know you're gonna be shitting. You're gonna be crying. You're gonna just purge whatever the fuck out of you. I figured if I follow this fast,
yeah. You won't have much inside you.
What can I throw up?
Right.
Boy, I ain't throw up one time. I shit probably 18 times. And I don't know what the fuck it could have been because there couldn't have been nothing in me. And I wasn't drinking any water either.
Well, you understand that both, urine continues during fast, right? And also feces because when you break down your own body.
I was going to say the old cells and maybe parasites and shit probably
it has to come out that way. There's no other way to get rid of solids, right?
Yeah.
You can sweat a little, you can pee and you can shit. And so dead red blood cells, that's what gives stool its color. It's called stercobilinogen.
I didn't look at none of it.
So the breakdown products of
they laid down a very specific rule about the bathrooms and lights. Don't turn any lights on. Don't look in the mirror. I looked in the mirror a couple times, and
that's good advice. And that's from Mad Men. That was a great scene in Mad Men when Roger trips for the first time. Roger takes LSD, and there's an amazing clip of him smoking a cigarette. He puts a cigarette in his mouth and sucks the whole cigarette down like this in one in one like shot. It's amazing. Turns it all into ash, and then another time when he's like, don't look in the mirror, and goes to the mirror, and it's interesting. Good.
It was
well portrayed.
It's a very like, if you've heard one person's story about it, you've probably heard them all. It's literally the same thing. Like, I saw I sat for like a half hour after I drank it. I just had like a makeshift shanty town, bunch of yoga mats, my blankets, a puke bucket, everything
This
I
is
needed for the
in
night.
Hawaii? Or
No, this was actually, we did this local. We brought them to us. They came for a 2-night excursion, and we bombed out of Airbnb. It was
here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but
Amazing.
fucking Irwin,
Amazing.
of all places.
So cool.
Yeah, dude, it was a very cool experience. I would love to go to Peru and strip the plant myself, but at the same time, I'd like to go home the next day as well and never see a lot of you people again. But I drank it and I sat down. I'm sitting there for probably like a half hour, and I immediately thought, I was like, you just spent a lot of money for some bullshit. I'm like, nothing crazy is going on right now.
You'd had other hallucinogenic experiences before this.
I've eaten mushrooms several times. I've LSD, salvia, if you ever heard of salvia.
Of course, yeah. So, but you had an idea of what to
I had an
anticipate.
idea of what a trip would be, but 50 minutes go by, and I just get this wave over me of like heat a little bit, like, like when you had one too many drinks at the bar where it was like, oh shit, my blood alcohol just caught up with me. I had that wave of heat, and I'm like, all right, maybe we're about to do something. And I was just staring at this wall across from me, and it just broke into pixelation of what I to this day, I don't know if it was a hornet or if it was a praying mantis. I looked on Reddit. There's something about the praying mantis and DMT trips that go hand in hand. They call it the architect, where they pick the bad shit out of your brain and eat it, but they make you face it during it. But this wall turned into that. I just seen this face, but it was like a million faces of its face in its face, pixelated. It was the ultimate 7th dimension fucking parallel universe pixelation, and it just disappeared. And I just felt like this presence next to me, and this lady was like, "You're here to heal, child." She kept calling me child, and in my vocabulary, that's not something I would fucking call another adult. I would never ever say the word child except for to a child or referring to a child. Like that's like grandma talk. Like, that's literally grandma talk. She's like, "You're here to heal, child," and I'm like, heal what? And in my head, I'm like, all right, you're gonna heal yourself maybe. And then through this journey, I went on the wildest healing ride I've ever done. Like, I got to get a little bit personal and open up about a little bit of trauma in life. It all stems from trauma. I was sent there. Like I said, I'm the fucking Highlander. I'm the last of the bloodline. The name dies with me unless I have a son or whatever. I got to fucking spread my seed. But I never knew about generational trauma. Those are things you never learn about until you face them in therapy or wherever the fuck you're going to end up running into them in life. She tasked me with healing my generational trauma, and it was one of the most profound experiences. It all started in 1934. This is as far back as it allowed me to visualize and see. My grandfather killed my grandmother, who was pregnant at the time with my father and a twin sister. If you ever seen like Jesus Shuttlesworth, He Got Game or whatever, it was an accident. He was abusive. He pushed her. She fucking hit her head, caused a contusion. They gave an emergency C-section. My dad survived it. My grandmother didn't, and his twin sister passed away. From then, growing up, it was a giant stigma in my house. We never talked about my grandfather. My dad would just say he was a bad man, and that was it. But he killed my grandmother. He came to America in the 30s. I don't know what he was running from the old country, but he ends up with stomach cancer. He's in the hospital. Someone smothers him with a pillow, kills my grandfather. My dad's an orphan growing up in and out, being abused, just the whole fucking system. This is all before he even gets blinded as a teenager. His trauma is so sick that he passed on to me. And that starts that. 3 out of 4 of my grandparents were killed. My grandfather killed my grandmother, and my grandfather was killed in the hospital. Later on in life, in 1979, my mom's dad was robbed and murdered by some professor at Pitt's son who's still alive and lives in Duquesne. But from there, my grandmother on my mother's side already had dementia, last stages. I never met this lady. All I ever heard from my oldest brother was she was the meanest person on earth. And through all this, my mom ends up with custody of my 3 uncles and an aunt. The year after to the date of my grandfather's murder, my uncle Bobby kills himself from, I don't know, grief. I was told a girl was the main source, but just grief. He did it literally a year to the day of the murder date. It was like, my mom had a very tragic life. My dad had a very tragic life. They got together and they had me, and all that tragedy has just been in there. I'm a big karma believer. I have a like when I say I'm spiritual, dude, I'm like I think of things so weird. My dad and me have been traveling forever. Our souls know each other. My mom had me for karmatic reasons, more than likely. I don't think she loved me, but it's not her fault. It's because I don't know if she was bipolar, but she just never recovered from the trauma that she's seen of my she just can never get over that shit. And as I'm going through this ayahuasca journey, I'm meeting these people. I'm meeting my grandmother for the first time. 1934 was the last time she was fucking alive. And I'm meeting this woman for the first time, and I'm having to introduce myself. In this ayahuasca high state, I'm like, hey, I'm fucking my name is Ralph. I don't know, they're telling me to tell you that it's not your fault. It kept giving me messages to tell people to heal whatever trauma they had. I'm like, it's not your fault. I'm like, I don't know what it means. It's not your fault. And then it was almost as they were healed, the next person would come in line. And there was no order to it either. It started with my grandmother on my dad's side, and it ended with my grandfather at the very end, 5 hours later at the end of the night, after I did all this. And
what were you doing physically during this time? Were you laying on a bed?
I was laying on my stomach.
Or talking to someone?
I was laying on my stomach, putting hands on people like I would do Reiki. Certain people required Reiki. Certain people required messages from me. Dude, it was everybody. Anybody I know with trauma. At the time, it was right after Harlan's mom passed away. Harlan popped up. Me and Harlan are cool, but we're not that cool.
So you were actually giving Reiki to people while you were tripping? No, not in your trip, but actually physically. There were people there?
There was
the other people that were there you were giving Reiki to during your trip?
I put hands on people after I was out of my trip state who needed it. This dude, Tyler, was screaming and crying about his dad the whole night.
Yeah.
And I was like, as soon as I'm well enough to walk across the room, I'm going to put my hands on this motherfucker's heart.
Yeah.
And in my head, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I'm going to put him to fucking sleep so he quits crying. I'm like, this motherfucker needs, he needs his heart touched right now. And I'm like, this will make him stop crying. But it literally kept popping up, person after person.
Wow.
I met my grandmother on my mom's side, and we just we immediately clashed. I'm like, yo, during this, I'm already getting confidence and shit. I realize what's going on. And I'm like, yo, I'm on some spiritual God shit right now. I'm like, I got fucking ayahuasca in me, and I'm in this dimension, and I'm here to fucking make sure that all my trauma ends tonight. And I was like, it's not my trauma, it's your fucking trauma that you gave me. I'm like, I get over my parents dying and shit. Like, I figure it out. Life goes on. But like, Yin's did some bullshit. Like you killed my fucking grandmother, dude. Like, what the fuck? Like,
He didn't go to jail for it?
No, he didn't go to jail. Well, it was deemed an accident because it was like a domestic thing. He pushed her and she fell and hit her head. And I don't know, the 30s, dog. Wow. 1934. But they're just coming. People are coming. I'm seeing their tragedies. And in between, like, every 45 minutes, there'd be like a wave of relief where it would feel like the pressure was off me and it was like, all right, I finished the job. There'd be silence and I'd see this little like jester. I call it a jester. I took a notebook with me. I should have brought this notebook and I was writing down what I would see and whatever. A lot of it was just like, ha, 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 and like really like funny ass shit. But I kept seeing this jester and I was like, Jester, I don't trust you. I will not follow you. I'm funnier than you. I kept saying to him I was funnier than him. That's where all that ha-ha shit came. Because it was like literally like a court jester. And it would show up on my shoulder. And I'd look over and it would snap me out of my trip. And I'd be like a fucking jester. And I'd look at like Dom was with me at this trip. And I'd be like, you see that jester? And then he'd fucking run across the room. And I'd be like, nobody sees this fucking jester? And then like 30 seconds would go by and another wave would come back. And the grandmother would be like, you're not finished yet. And it would be like, all right. Then I ended up on my stomach like for the last round. And the last two people I remember seeing very specifically was the second to last was my nephew who passed away in 2020. He had epilepsy real bad, had a seizure, and just didn't wake up one day. And I didn't know, like, he didn't need no healing. And like, we were talking a little bit and I'm like, bro, I was like, you were way too powerful to be here. And I was like, I was referring to my brother. I was like, Rob is going to be all right. I was like, just show up every once in a while and check on him. I was like, but he's going to be all right. I was like, don't be scared. Just, we'll see you whenever we see you. He disappears. And then my grandfather, it was literally like a video game. He's the final boss. And like, I had to like wrestle him. I ended up I had to like forcefully Reiki his ass. And I was like, I got to put my hands on his kidneys. I'm like, you got hate, motherfucker. And I was like, it's through, I could feel it in my blood. And I was like, it got to go. And I just put my hands on his kidney and held him down. He's wrestling, trying to get out. And I'm like, no. Like, I'm the Highlander. I'm like, I'm the strongest motherfucking Martinez could have ever produced. And I'm like, this rage and all this is your fault. And I was like, it stops right now. He like literally turned to dust. And I'm like, I'm just in this like weird upside down place. And I'm like, what now? And finally she comes from the left side. And she's like, normally she's in my right ear the whole time. She comes to my left side. And she's like, I think that's enough for tonight. And I was like, thank fucking God. And all in between this, I shit probably 18 times. Wow. And the shamans would come and work on me. He would come. This dude did Reiki on me. I go back and forth. I'm certified in Reiki, but at the same time, I think it's kind of a Ponzi scheme. I think some people got the touch. Some people were just full of shit and they got you could get certified fucking online for $30. Like some people really are about that. They could heal you. Some people were just.
For people who've never heard of it, this is Japanese
energy work
of energy healing where near touch or
near touch or
light
touch.
Yeah,
near touch or light touch.
Not massage. It's not like a heavy pressure designed to loosen muscles or even to feel good per se. It's more of energy healing.
Yeah, it's more of
centered on energy centers around the body.
I might put my hands on your feet and your head might get warm type shit if your energy's flowing through your body, how it should be. It sounds weird when I was certified several different times for my Reiki one. The first time I did Reiki one, the lady who did it, she presented it as more of like religion. And I just like, I felt like I was like, I don't know if this is right. Someone was like, you got to go. I ended up going to that lady, Rebecca Bloom, who we were talking about readings with Rebecca.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, I was like, I've been told that you're the person to talk to. Can you certify me? When I went to her little certification, it was way different. She wasn't talking about Jesus, healing touches. Like the first lady was literally like, it's the healing hands of Jesus. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that sounds cool on paper, but I'm like, I don't think I'm Jesus. Like, I don't think I'm.
Right.
And
I
like,
don't think the Japanese were too into
I don't
Jesus
think
either, were they?
I don't think there was no Asian Jesus.
No.
I don't.
It's big in South Korea.
I felt
the
like
Koreans are all about
I
it.
felt like I said, I felt like it was
think we're-
Ponzi scheme. I was like, wow, I just wasted $300 and 3 hours of my day getting certified for Reiki.
Shinto
And,
is the name of the religion in Japan, I believe.
But I went to Rebecca. Rebecca, whatever she did, she attuned my hands or whatever, and I felt energy and like spiritual things happening that day. And I'm like, all right, maybe there is something to it. But
Dope.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
I
those
believe in
that
it.
don't
I believe
know,
in it. I just did
it
a
is
class.
Reiki, but like
I just did one, like a sound bath on what day was it? A couple days ago at the Sacred Healing House up the street
yeah.
with Quest's partner. Can't remember her name. Maybe Jamie. I think that's right.
Oh, it's like Pranavera or something used to be. They might have changed it.
Yes,
Yeah.
it still has the prana sign up.
Yeah.
But now it's the
I
Sacred
know Quest.
Healing
I
House.
don't know her. But
And she's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was really cool. They also had a massage person as part of it. So Quest was on the bowls. Jamie, I think that's her name. Sorry if I'm messing it up, was doing Reiki. And then they had this older woman who was kind of like a master energy worker who does massage. And all three were kind of working at the same time. It was phenomenal.
when them shamans put their hands on me, the one dude, he hit me with like a tree branch. He spit. You ever hear of Florida water? He put it in his mouth and spit it on me like he's Triple H, the wrestler, and then hit me, and then started hitting me with a switch. And he was like,
I thought that was Steve Austin who used to spit the beer. No,
Triple H would spit water
would
real
spit it.
sick.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
But he's hitting me.
He's the one who smashes it in his head.
He's hitting me with a switch
Catches
and
it.
things like that. He
Wow.
just stone cold
That's
chug
part of
him.
it. Yeah. What about the?
But he did Reiki on me. I had knee problems. He went right to my knee and worked on it for a half hour. He went right to not to sound like an egomaniac or anything, but like I know when shit's off on me. I know when that heart chakra is blocked. I know when I'm not speaking my truth and shit. And I was like, I know he's going to work on my chest. I was like, there's no way he's not going to work on my sacral chakra and my heart chakra.
Yeah.
Bro, he sitting there. It was like he was trying to like beat me up. It was like he was digging his knuckle into my heart.
Wow.
And moving it around, and then he would make me lift my arm and come from underneath me. And I'm like, I was like, I didn't know. I was like, this is really the sickest experience. I'm like, this dude just knows where it was like the ayahuasca was like an x-ray wherever turned red or whatever. Like I needed
this
healing.
was part of the
like he
ayahuasca
could see it.
experience.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's
So they're doing
this to
both
me. He's
energy
doing
work
this to me and
during the trip.
during the trip. Like I would go in and out. Like sometimes they didn't work on you the whole time. Like he worked on me and she worked on me a separate time. And I remember when Jennifer pulled up to me, I couldn't remember her name for the life of me. She had on like a red veil and all I seen was aura. And I just kept looking at her and I was like, the only thing I could think of was goddess. I was like, this is what a fucking goddess is. I was like, this is real life energy goddess in front of me right now. And I was like, I don't know how to look at you. I kept telling her shit. I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at. I was like, I just see red. And she's like, just lay back. And she went right to my knee, went right to my heart, worked on my heart.
They probably see it, right? They can probably see where the energy is off based on the colors.
They're singing, chanting, the drums are beating, and it was just like, I'm like, this is probably the coolest thing I'll ever experience. And I'm like, there's no way for me to physically explain what I'm seeing right now, or anybody to even understand when I say I held my grandfather down and gave him Reiki
incredible.
in like the afterlife. I don't know where I was.
Incredible. You were like wrestling
And then like 7 a.m. I woke up and we were allowed to talk. Like,
you're not allowed to talk during it? It's like a Vipassana?
After I don't know. They went the shamans went to sleep out of respect. We were quiet for them, but like I don't know how people did it. A lot of people went to sleep afterwards. I wasn't tired. It took me like 2 days before I went to sleep off of that shit. I just had like the ultimate, if you think of a Molly after, like my afterglow was so sick for like 48 hours of
What?
where I was still feeling like I was high and
Yeah.
just one with the
Chemically,
earth.
it's DMT, right?
Yeah.
5-MeO DMT or DMT. And when you combine it, you have two different plants in the jungle, the Amazon
Yeah.
jungle, that when combined, it's a MAO inhibitor, right? The vine, the ayahuasca vine has a potent MAO inhibitor that allows
Your brain to
DMT
recept it.
to remain physically active for hours. Whereas if you smoke DMT, you have a 15-second
Yeah.
kind of experience.
I've never done that before. I'm open to that.
It seems very different, right?
It does. The stories I hear on the internet seem like it's a lot smoother. I will say, like, when I came out of my ayahuasca trip, it took me probably 2 months before my energy levels balanced back out to where, like, the first week I didn't get out of bed. I was messaging people in the group. I'm like, I don't know what is going on, but I was like, I'm just drained. I was like, I got no energy. I can't get out of bed. I was like, I just want to sleep all day. I don't know. At first, I thought it was like it brought up depression. And I'm like, how can it bring up depression after I just kicked all that ass in the fucking spirit realm of trauma? But I ended up talking to Rebecca later on after that. And I was like, what do you think about that? I was like, you've had a lot of experience. You're the one that recommended us to these people. Like, have you ever heard anything like that? And she was like, well, tell me a little bit about what you experienced that night. And I told her, I was like, I think I did Reiki on like 4,700 fucking people. I was like, they just kept showing up, some of them for 30 seconds, some of them for fucking, I felt like I fucking talked to my grandmother for hours and all I did was tell her it wasn't her fault. And she was like, how do you feel when you do energy work? And I was like, when I do energy work, like I am tired afterwards. And she was like, think about that. She was like, you did it on generations and generations. She was like, you should be lucky you're fucking here. Like you should still be in bed recouping.
Wow.
I had the opportunity to do it in October and I skipped it. At first I was scared. I was like, it's not calling me out. It called me out. It specifically called me out the time I took it. The year before I signed up in 2020 to do it, COVID happened and I ended up getting COVID and I had to give my slot up to somebody. So I skipped it. I'm like, the universe was like, you're not ready. The next year it came up. I had a whole year to prep. I have the CoStar app. If you know what the CoStar app is,
No, haven't heard of it.
It's like an astrology app that maps your birth chart and all this shit.
Okay.
And all week it continued to tell me you were going to experience vulnerability with psychedelic drugs this week. And I'm like, this couldn't be more clear of a sign that the universe aligned this to come up. But this year she was like, it's on October 13th. I was like, Friday the 13th does not sound like a good night to trip. I was like, I don't know. I ended up going to this odd Pittsburgh show instead.
Yeah.
Which I do regret. I wish I would have went to the ayahuasca because at first I wasn't called to it. And now all of a sudden it's like the last couple months it's been calling out to me. It was like, you healed everybody. Now it's your turn to go into your psyche now, like, and do any healing that you need done.
Yeah.
And Lord knows what type of healing I need. I don't know.
Do you think that, so now they have this one where it's just a drip where you can be infused with DMT for hours and they can keep people kind of in that state for, let's say, 6 hours. Do you think that that would have the same effect on people as the ayahuasca, or is there something about plant medicine where it's divorced from the chemical that has different properties or is more powerful?
Well, here's the one thing I remember that stuck out in my mind about the ayahuasca that they brought. It's a little bit of the same ayahuasca from the first time they ever pulled it from the vine. What they do is, if you go to Peru or whatever, your job that week is to become one with the medicine, where you'll sit there and they'll make you fast, they'll make you eat rice, they'll make you meditate, pray, whatever the fuck you got to do, and then they'll make you work on the farm, where you will strip the vine and process it during the week, and then you'll get there on a Monday, and then Friday you'll do your trip and you'll be home by Sunday or whatever. But like Monday through Friday, it's all prep, it's all spiritual cleansing, meditation, fasting, and then working with the plant, stripping it yourself. What they do is, every time that they have it, they just mix it into like one giant pot. It's like, I don't know if I could describe it right.
Oh, I know what you're talking
But
about.
like,
It's the idea is kind of like
this
the
jar
idea
is
of
never
yes,
ending.
yes, yes,
It's
yes,
a
yes.
never-ending jar.
It's just
and
like
still
how you
has-
can eat French fries from the same pot of grease that
Yep,
Elvis ate
yep,
out of
yep.
if you go to
It's-
Vegas.
Yep, it's the same.
And it's like
yep.
we never completely emptied the grease
Yep.
trap. We saved a tiny little
There
bit.
might be something from
and
1975 in
there you
there.
go. Exactly.
But yeah, it was. I highly recommend it to anybody who's ever thought about experiencing that journey or looking to actually heal, or even break an addiction. There was people there that were there to break addictions. There was people there that needed to do generational trauma work, and there was just people there that, like me, I was just curious about what was going to happen. Like, what's this about?
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, I mean, I think not everybody's ready, right? So
No,
this is like very
no.
powerful medicine. We're talking about like ancient compounds that probably birthed civilization, and there's a reason that they kind of gave rise to the frontal cortex and to civilization itself, right? We have evidence that it was either bread or beer, right? but
Yeah.
you know, those pots that they have,
They ate a mushroom and cavemen started speaking English.
you know, somebody had to have this idea to settle and to start domesticating crops and domesticating animals, and these are very revolutionary ideas. You know, it's like it's not so straightforward to think that somebody can just come up with this without a little bit of help. Just like that Etch-a-Sketch, you know, when you're
Well,
locked
yeah.
into your patterns, it's very hard.
We've talked off record about like aliens and things like that. Those could have a major play in it. Those could be how we were introduced to these special plants, where they're like, these are, maybe they put these plants here.
Yeah,
I always
or
look at-
maybe that's where we come from, right? Panspermia is this idea that the earth was seeded with humanity or human civilization.
Prometheus.
Yeah. Was that
Yeah.
that's
I
the
think that-
aliens?
they, some
film?
alien fucked the egg or something.
Right. Sent us down,
And then
or a monkey. They like kidnapped
Yeah.
a monkey and injected it with human DNA, or whatever it is, the Anunnaki. I don't really get down with any of that. I think that we are the gods, just like you said. How somebody saw, like you saw this woman and you saw her as a goddess. It's
Yeah.
because whenever you're in a state like that, or whenever you encounter great intelligence, if you like, let's say 100,000 years ago, a caveman saw a person with a cell phone or a person with a F-16 jet, that would be indistinguishable from magic. That would be a god to
Yep,
them, without a doubt. And so that's, to me, what the Anunnaki were. They were people with advanced technology. They were these bearded, kind of tall, you know, men, probably mostly men, who came on boats from Phoenicia, maybe, and brought the secrets of astrology, geometry, technology, and provided warnings very frequently about these comets that come from the sky and end civilization, because it does happen. You know, we go through these meteor belts, through these asteroid
do.
belts every 10, 20,000 years, and now might be that time. It might
I
be
think
time for a big reset.
I think I see a second sun all the time, and I'm like,
That's the
It's gotta be-
tail of
it's
the
gotta
dragon when
be-
it's coming in, when it gets close to the sun and it lights on fire.
I think it's my mind playing tricks on me, or I think it's a secret planet, and
We don't
we're-
have a clue.
Yeah,
I
I
don't think we
know.
have a clue
I-
what's out there. There's
I think-
hundreds of thousands of Earth-like objects in
I
our
think a
own
lot
galaxy.
of space is faked. A lot of what we know about it, like I don't know, that James Webb telescope, just like,
Yeah,
we're looking millions of
buying it?
years in the past.
in the past.
Like, come on, man, we can't. My Ring camera ain't even good. Like you're telling me we're looking at fucking 1,000 years in the past type shit. I don't know. It's you never know. The only way to find out is when we finally make it, when we turn back in the stardust. Someone recently told me. I was talking to this astrology lady, and she recently told me she was real hyped that I was a Pisces. She's like, "Here's my outlook on it." She said, "If you believe in reincarnation, you keep coming back, male, female. You keep switching or whatever. But each time you keep switching through astrology, by the time you get to the last astrology, like that's
The
it.
last sign, yeah.
Like once you once you incarnate here as a Pisces,
You're done.
You're done. You're
Ooh.
pop back in the stardust, and then
Whoa.
maybe I start that cycle again, or I don't know.
Maybe you make it out. You only get 13.
Yeah, you
'cause don't forget
yeah.
about Ophiuchus, the snake charmer. So you get 13 trips to figure it out. 6 male, 7 female, or 6 female, 7 male.
Yeah,
Fascinating. Yeah,
it is. It's interesting. It's and
I have to ask my mom about that one.
and yeah, you actually gave me a nice introspective of what your mom said about that when it comes to people that are from the trans community.
Yeah.
Where
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like
fascinating, right?
where it's maybe like past life is interfering because maybe they were aborted as a child or something like that. I thought about that. I
Makes
thought
sense
about
to
that.
me.
I'm like, that really adds some fuel to the reincarnation fire, man.
There's a lot of reasons to believe in it. I think the one reason not to believe in it is because you're scared of death. Right?
Yeah.
And fear of death will engender a lot of superstition, can create a lot of different strands to hold on to and grasp at. But
Like-
this is not one of them, right?
Like I touched
believe
upon
for
a
something
little
better
bit.
than that.
I touched upon a little bit earlier, like how I go to church.
Yeah.
And it's like when I talk to my priest, my priest is somebody I went to school with as a kid, growing up, became a priest. I was very intrigued by that. I brought him on the podcast immediately, like, yo, how did you become a priest? Like,
Yeah.
but we butt heads all the time when I start telling him my beliefs. I'm like, yeah, I believe there's a supreme creator, like, and all that, but I don't believe in hell. If there is hell, this is it. This is where I have to feel emotions every day, where I'm expected to pay taxes, and I only get 70 years here or whatever if I'm lucky.
Sounds like Judaism, frankly.
Yeah.
We don't have hell.
With extra steps, with a little bit less steps.
The challenge with Judaism, right, is we don't accept Jesus as a prophet or as a savior, and my mom does, right? She sees Jesus as being that Son of God, of being that that force to be reckoned with. Clearly, this was a person who transformed the world. There's no way to argue against it.
I like to call him I like to refer to Jesus as a cowboy. I'm like, he's the original OG badass, like, dude.
Flipped the tables in the synagogue.
Tables, changed the world. People, I know his name.
Definite hippie, right? He was very much.
Yeah, not white whatsoever either. The least white person, probably.
I think you're right. Bethlehem, right? Bethlehem is a Palestinian city.
Yeah.
It's in the West Bank.
That's
where he was from.
Whole different holy war.
Born in the West Bank.
Yep.
Fascinating stuff.
It is. It's interesting.
Who were
stuff.
the guests that you connected with the most? The episodes that really changed you, or you felt like you learned from the most?
Some of my favorite episodes come from just randomness. One of my favorite episodes was we had an old pharmacist I worked with at Cresco at some point come on, and we talked about medical marijuana from her pharmaceutical standpoint in the industry.
We can't have medical marijuana because the pain industry is too important financially.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, Purdue Pharma, no fucking way we're going to allow medical marijuana on the scene unless we have unless we have our own product that we can pitch, right? There's no way. It's too good of medicine. It works too well. Unacceptable. Unacceptable.
I'm pro marijuana so much. Like I said, Mary Jane's the only lady that ever treated me with respect. But she, when it comes to medical marijuana, nobody's really getting cured. Like, it ain't curing shit. It ain't. We ain't got a magic pill either. And I worked in medical marijuana for Cresco for a short stint. I took a short stint in 2019, right during pandemic, the worst time to work fucking medical marijuana. But I took a stint there, and 90% of my patients were just like dudes that wanted to get high. There was very rarely a grandmother that came in there and would be like, I'm battling cancer. My doctor said, come talk to you, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And we would run into the roadblocks of, I'm 80 years old. I do not want to get stoned, but I want my pain to go away. Is there something you could give me? And I'm just like, not going to lie to you. You're going to get stoned, but you're going to forget about your fucking pain. Like, there's nothing good about it.
Opiates. Like, they have this thing like,
but if you're prescribed
naloxone can take away the joy.
It'll literally fucking fix your pain or whatever. The weed, in my opinion, if I have a headache and smoke weed, it makes it worse.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it fixes the pain. It numbs you to it.
It helps. It helps you deal with it. It helps you eat. And
you're talking about marijuana,
sleep.
not opiates.
Marijuana, yes. Avoid opiates at all costs if you can.
Constipation alone is a killer. You have drugs for the constipation you get from the drug to fight your pain.
I was blessed in that sense of not liking drugs because of that specific reason. I went to Ocean City. I would go to Ocean City every summer, and drugs are just everywhere. One year somebody offers me a fucking Percocet. I take a Percocet. I'm able to like a fucking hurricane. And then for 2 days, I didn't shit. And I'm in Ocean City. I'm eating nothing but crab legs, non-fucking
Maryland or Jersey?
Maryland. I'm eating crab legs. I'm eating soft shell crab. I'm eating everything that should make my ass explode when I wake up in the morning. And I didn't shit. And I was like,
can prevent it. Travel alone can add this level of anxiety.
And in my head, I was like, I'm like, that little bit of buzz I got and extra was not worth having all this saltwater shit in my belly not coming out.
Is not a good feeling at all, and we deal with it a lot in my field. It's constant.
Never.
And what do I tell people? Miralax, Miralax, Miralax. But of course, I wish I could tell people diet, diet, diet.
It is. Like, I know.
Diet is so crucial when it comes to constipation. But
my dad had the opposite problem where they took 18 inches of his colon. He got cancer in 2003. In his stomach, they removed it. He barely survived that, but as a result, like, it ended up moving down into his colon. It came back in 2006. They cut 18 inches of his colon, and it was like clockwork. Like, if he ate a sandwich, it was like you could count to like 100 before he had to get his ass to the toilet because it would just go right through. He didn't have what we were talking about, the Muda Banda or whatever.
Mula Banda.
And he couldn't. I guess he couldn't tighten his ass to hold shit in. So, like, dude, it was a curse for that shit.
That's terrible, man.
If I ever got stomach cancer, I would take the different route he took. I wouldn't let him cut any of my colon like that after seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one. Who else had an episode that you learned from or was memorable?
I brought my buddy Cornell Mack on there. Cornell Mack turned into I grew up with him, knew him since probably fucking 1990. Went to middle school, all that. He started a lawn care company just recently. But not only did he start a lawn care company, he was doing similar to what we were doing, like almost like the What's Good in the Hoods, where he was pulling up on other rival lawn cares and touring their garage and their tools.
Yeah.
And as a retired lawn care person, that caught my attention. I'm like, whoa. I was like, that's a fucking smart move. That's a lane of your own. And like the views he gets and the following he's built, he calls it the Lawn Care Power Moves Podcast. And him and his boy do it every week. And it turns into them just talking motivation every time. Like, get out, get it. But that was like one of my favorite conversations. We barely talked about lawn care. We just talked about what it, like, mind frame. It's like, bro, it's like you'll produce whatever. Like I said, I don't work, but it's because I believe that I don't need to work.
Did it make you miss the landscaping?
It does. It makes me think about it. When we started talking about prices with the inflation and what people were generating now, I'm like,
nothing's under 100 anymore.
I'm like,
right?
My
Can you
lawn,
get your lawn cut for less than
No.
$100?
I would charge people monthly like Comcast. I'm no matter what. I don't care if it don't fucking rain all July and I cut you
Yes.
one time.
Yes.
Still, you're paying me for the whole month like I was there. Back in the day, I would average out lawns. Like I always look at my lawn. My lawn's a prime example. It takes me maybe like a half hour to cut it, weed whack it. I'm good at it. I've been doing it for years. It takes me a half hour. It'd probably take a stranger 45 minutes first time. To me, that was always worth. When I cut grass in the early 2000s, that was like a $15 lawn. I would ask $15 to cut my fucking lawn. In and out, half hour, not even. More than likely, I'll cut your neighbors and your other neighbors, and I'll make fucking $60 in fucking half hour, be in and out. Nowadays, I look at my lawn, and like as the years go by, I'm like, now it's like 25, now it's 50. I couldn't imagine my monthly lawn being less than like $250. And it's only like I said, it was like a $15 lawn. Nowadays, a single cut, they'd probably tell me 60 fucking bucks just to come out.
Let's go.
And drop the trailer and cut it.
Yeah, well, gas is expensive.
Gas is expensive. Time is expensive. Yep. And there's things in life that people need. There's things that'll never go out of business. UPMC will never go out of business. And as long as we're still able to breathe oxygen, the grass will always grow unless a meteor comes, and that's the least of our worries is cutting your grass after that. Unless a meteor or volcano pops, you're going to need your grass cut.
Yeah.
Probably once a week for the rest of your life, depending on where you live.
I wonder what the pandemic did to it, like whether people started cutting their own grass because they were home.
Be interesting to see. I would think a lot of people probably picked up that hustle on their own where they're like, this is a job we're allowed to still go to. And I probably got laid off. Like, let me scoop up a lawn care business. It's one of the easiest startups, in my opinion.
Yeah. I used to do it when I was a kid. 14 was one of my first jobs. It was before I could get a job. When I turned 14 was like I could actually work for McDonald's. But before that, I was cutting lawns and picking up sticks and throwing them on the, taking crap off old ladies' roofs and working for my teachers and everything. And me and my buddy had a little thing, but it wasn't like we had our own gear. It was more like, we'll show up.
There's been a lot of guests on the podcast, and then there's been a lot of like our video series of What's Good in the Hood, and I've had a lot of memorable What's Good in the Hood episodes. Some of my favorites: Yoli's, Cucina and Craft House, Streets on Carson, Salim's. Salim opened up the gate to me. I've been a Salim eater since he was in Oakland back in the day.
South Bouquet. It was next door to me. Love that place. The whole goat? You ever have the whole goat?
I'm allergic to lamb, so I don't eat things like that.
Oh, damn.
And it's weird. It happened as an adult. I don't know.
What happens?
I throw up violently if I eat raw. If I eat straight lamb, I get immediately like food poisoning type things.
Huh.
If I eat a gyro, depending on where the gyro came from, if it's mostly like ground beef mixed in there, I just get away with a headache. But like lamb makes me throw up. It makes me mad because it's a delicacy. But
it's amazing. Those lollipops.
Salim, they remembered me because like I got a big personality and I got a big appetite. If I'm a patron at your restaurant, you will always remember me because like I would go down there and I'd eat I'd eat like 2 hamburgers and French fries, and these people like they would look at me and they'd be like, "Wow, you just ate something that would feed a family." And they're like, "We remember this guy." They're like, "That's that big little guy. He's coming to fucking eat a whole plate of chicken." And they just like, so I don't know, for some reason Salim always remembered me. And when we started doing that show, I was like, one of the first people I want to get in there is Salim. And when we finally got Salim to let us in, he opened up the keys to the kingdom. Like I thought we were just gonna go look at like the restaurant and a little bit of the grocery store. He took us back and started butchering fucking lambs and shit.
Amazing.
We're walking through the whole meat rack. I was like, wow. I was like, we really got like the behind, like one, we don't deserve this type of fucking footage. And 2, like he really opened up the keys to the kingdom and was like, welcome. And
that's dope.
Check this out.
That's so cool.
It's like I said earlier, it's not what your net worth is, it's what your network is.
What's
it's who
good
you know.
What's good in the hood is like remotes where you actually go out and record interviews with people out in the community.
It started out as my whole podcasting journey started out as this. I was invited to be a guest just like this on the Anybody Can Do This show. And they were like, who's this dude that says he puts the OG in yoga? Who the fuck is this motherfucker with these cartoons and shit? Like, so I went down there and we hit it off immediately, me and neighbor. But they do a segment at the end, if you remember Beat or Beat Those Cheeks, and they were talking shit on Betos on the episode I was there. Betos came up. And I'm like, you fucking guys are crazy. I'm like, Betos isn't supposed to be pizza. I was like, it's a novelty pizza. It's not supposed to be your favorite pizza in the city. But I was like, it's far from the slander yous are giving it. People were calling it Lunchables. I'm like, it's Ohio Valley pizza. It's different. It's for acquired taste. It's something you don't eat every day.
Totally.
And then
it's a treat.
From there, I
It's a treatza.
messaged neighbor and I was like, you guys really need someone like me to correspond with you guys and call in every week and give you like a food critique. And he was like, I got a better idea. He was like, let's videotape it. And I was like, whatever. I don't know. I had no clue if it would work or not. And he's like, let's fucking videotape it. We go and videotape it. It turns out to be a fucking blast. Next thing you know, I start DMing random people and just ask, hey, we're trying something new with a video blog series. We're calling it What's Good in the Hood. We'll come in, buy some food, try and get an interview. And damn, the city was like receptive to it. We got like 50 episodes in the last 2 years. We go in like waves. We like summertime, it gets hot. We don't have air conditioning in the studio. So we go out and we do a bunch of What's Good in the Hoods. Wintertime, we're just in there recording podcasts all fucking winter long.
Yeah.
And the What's Good in the Hoods die down because it's like, a lot of stuff we end up doing recently is like outdoor golfing, shit like that. Like you name it, we've tried to do it. And we get submissions from guests all the time too of like what we should do, what they'd like to see us do. It's been an interesting ride.
So fair enough. Do you like where do you see the things going in your life? So yoga, where is it going to go? Podcasting, where is it going to go? Where is your life trajectory in 5-10 years?
I used to be someone that mapped that road out all the time. I used to tell myself I'll be a millionaire when I'm 30. By the time I'm 35, I'll be retired and a billionaire. Those days have come and gone. So now I just do simple life goals that I know for the most part I can achieve. And if I can't achieve them, I still got the rest of my life to kind of achieve them. But I stopped putting a pedestal on 5-year, 10-year plans, but I do still have a little bit of a plan. In 5 years, do I think I'll be teaching yoga? I don't know. I don't think yoga is... When I first started teaching yoga, the idea was let's open up a studio. Then COVID happened and I've seen it destroy a lot of people's businesses I own that were in the yoga game. And I'm like, that's not a solid foundation. That's more of a side bet still. Like you can have a yoga studio, but that will not be your main hustle. I may still be teaching yoga. I may not. You never know. As far as it goes to like podcasting.
What about retreats? Like what about leading a retreat where hallucinogens or reiki or vipassana is all involved?
That's something I've been actually working on right now. I've been wanting to do I'm a big spiter. I like to spite motherfuckers on this spiritual shit. I like to call them out on fake shit. I recently asked, like, there's not many men's circles. That's why I asked, like, would you go to, like, a men's retreat? Like, that's what I'm thinking of. Would you go to a men's circle? Like, if I hosted a space for a men's circle, would men show up to it? I recently inquired about going to they do these full moon aesthetic dances where ecstatic dance, whatever the fuck it is. Yeah. They probably sing.
An ascetic is somebody who, like, it's like a hermit, I think.
They probably fucking dance, move around, a little bit of meditation, a little bit of moving. Yeah. They probably scream and journal and drink tea. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I might pull up to one of those. And I asked one of these popular ladies in the city, I was like, do you mind if I pull up to your woman's circle? And she was like, in all honesty, she was like, it's a safe space for women and I'd prefer you not to show up. And I was like, man, ain't that a bitch? And I'm like, I don't know if I could get like 18 motherfucking men to yell and the journal and fucking dance or whatever. But I've actually been contemplating that about holding men's spaces and doing it to the attune of like how I would move, where we wouldn't fucking like maybe I bring boxing gloves and we fucking box each other at this men's retreat. Like
I haven't
to get some
done.
anger out.
I mean, I think the person who's doing it is Quest, right? And I haven't been on any of his retreats. Have you?
No.
So like that's where I would start if I was interested in doing men's circles. Is I would go to his and see if it was like see what he was up to. What do you think the advantage is of having a space where it's all men rather than having men and women together?
Iron sharpens iron, right? That's what all these fucking vulnerable men tell me when I meet people like I tend to bounce around the ceremonies as well, but they're never those. They're never all men gear ones. I'll go to cacao ceremonies that are facilitated by a group of fucking men. And they all tell me the same thing. They're like, they always say that to me. They're like, iron sharpens iron. We need more men like you to be in a space and be vulnerable and be able to show other men that. But I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I
don't know what the advantages is.
I'll tell you from my standpoint.
As a man, we're programmed from the beginning that as a man, you have to be a man.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to be vulnerable. You're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to show this shit. You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to show weakness. I don't know. That's like how I was raised. But like, a lot of people keep that stigma and they never get a chance to break it. There's a lot of people that need to go to therapy that'll never go to fucking therapy and hear what they need to hear. There's a lot of people that'll never reach out to a friend when they're going through it just to get something off their chest. There's a lot of people that hold pride and ego, and when it comes to men, I think it would be more harder for a man to open up than it would be for a woman to open up in like a group circle setting like that. Because women are used to doing that. They fucking group chat. They'll fucking tell you, they'll talk shit on their men and shit in their groups and like. But men, like as men, we really don't like open up about feelings.
So you think maybe it'd be easier to open up if there weren't women around? And And my perspective on that is, and I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're saying, but I think the obvious answer is women would be distracting. Like when you're on a yoga retreat, you're trying to work on yourself. You're not trying to have a romantic encounter, right? Like, so maybe you just surround yourself with other men so that you can kind of focus your energy on healing rather than on sex.
It's a lot different energy as well. You get that masculine energy. The whole group is masculine, and you come together. You get that fucking team environment, like a high school football team. Back to that, like type setting where you're right, where maybe it isn't distracting, where maybe you're not thinking about sex or anything like that. I mean, it's funny you said that because, like,
of course, that discounts the idea of homosexuality, which obviously is, that's also possible, but just as a general.
I mean, I've been to a few yoga retreats in my life, and free love is free love, bro. That shit be happening. That if you go to Tulum, like,
I didn't see anything
for a week. There's a good chance that some of your flatmates are gonna fucking hook up. It's just gonna fucking happen. Like,
I believe it. I didn't see it, but I believe it.
What happens?
I was the only guy on my trip, so
how'd that work out?
I didn't know. I didn't realize.
Did you know any of the people
that were going? No, just the teacher.
Strangers?
Yeah, just the teacher, just the leader, Francesca, who's amazing. Also, I should shout out Francesca too. She's incredible. She has a company called Shamanic, SHAMANEK, which she runs, and she's also incredible.
I actually enjoy going to retreats and things like that. I don't like go to Tulum and shit, but I'll go to River Mountain all the time when I see random people hosting that shit. I'm like, it's 2 hours away.
Oh, cool. Where is it?
And like, it's up in Bedford, PA, Allegheny Mountains.
Let me know.
Really fucking cool. I was thinking of holding one there because like
Well, let's go to one
especially
first.
as a man one, like, bro,
Yeah.
because we could just barbecue.
Put me in.
It'd be easy.
Put me in.
It'd be easy.
I'll be
as
the
fuck for
I'll be
that.
the grill master.
There's teepees and things like that you can rent, but they have
Amazing.
they have these bunks. It's like it sleeps 10. The top row has a glass window for your roof, so you could look at the
Incredible.
stars on. Dude, it's fucking spectacular.
Yeah, it's just east of here.
Yeah, just yeah, east. Yeah, I'm trying to think
Towards
where I'm at
Altoona.
door now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yep. Up
Perfect.
that way.
Let's go.
We should.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Put me in.
Booked. Let's go. What do you think about October?
I say that
When's the next?
you and I
pyramid?
lead it. You and I lead it, and we just charge people. I don't know.
You got to charge them their room and board and
1,500?
food. I don't think it
Okay.
has to be that much unless I don't know. Let's.
All inclusive. It includes all meals, transportation. Like
I was thinking we could probably it's very affordable. We could probably
We'll
swing
talk about it
We'll swing
offline. We'll talk about it
call it
offline.
$600 to $1,000 depending on where you
So-
want to sleep.
I
for
love
the
it.
weekend.
Yeah, perfect.
Meals included.
What about so you were about to talk about the podcast and what your goals were? You
I
talked
would
about
love-
yoga.
I would love to get paid off of that and that actually become a career.
Yeah.
Because like I'm one of those people that it's like do what you like. That's my number one rule. I don't do anything I don't want to do. And if I could have the freedom of life to do what I'm doing, show up at the studio for 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day, put in a little bit of work that isn't even work, in my opinion. It's me laughing for 4 hours, cutting up with neighbor. Dude, that would be the ultimate goal. I'd probably live to be 120 years old. There'd be no stress. Like, I would love that to happen. I do have goals. I set, like I said, I'm a small goal setter. I set goals that are achievable. The outstanding goal has always been I want 2 What's Good in the Hoods booked every month, no matter what, and at least 3 podcasts. Things happen with the podcast. I'm sure you know guests will cancel the last minute. People will ghost you sometimes. I've been trying to get Real Deal on for fucking 3 years. Real Deal. I heard he's your neighbor
Took
or
me-
whatever. But
Yeah,
like,
It took me like at least 12 months.
we've been bouncing. I have a specific rule too. I hate to let
That's
my
one of my favorite
I hate to
podcasts, man. That shit is
I
killer.
hate to let my ego and
Dude,
shit
it's
get
a
in the
killer
way.
episode. He is
But,
so
like,
good on the mic.
I try not to ask people more than twice. If I ask you once and you're like, cool, all right, I'm like, all right, we're in.
I hounded
And then I
him.
bounce you again
hounded
and I
him.
ask you a second time and you're like, you're in. And then
We had
just-
probably six dates in
And I'm
total.
just like, man, I don't want to DM this other man one more time and be like, hey, it's Ralph again.
I
you
wanted
know,
it. I
like-
wanted it so bad, dude.
I
That's
do
the only
want
reason.
it.
Is like
still.
I just
do want to.
to me, he was like such a bucket list.
Yep. I wanted to bring him on too to talk about his dad because like
That would
we
be
could
cool.
go
That was
in
one
depth
thing.
with
Like that's totally still on the
Yeah.
table because we didn't talk about it really at all.
yeah.
Um,
Like we'll get into the king of the fucking battles and shit, of course, but we're
Yeah.
gonna definitely talk
we
about.
really didn't talk about the
we're
case at
gonna
all.
talk about that.
Didn't talk about the case.
yeah.
Didn't talk about malpractice, medical malpractice. What he's
malpractice.
trying to
The
do with the
number one
lawsuit.
killer. My favorite doctor once told
I
me.
don't think it's the number one killer.
well,
It's not the number one cause of
it's not the
death.
one cause of
It's
death.
not the number one.
But it's a
cause of
big
death for
factor.
any
It's
group
a big
in America.
factor in a lot
But
of.
it's a big deal.
people's-
I think he said like medical error is a third leading cause of death in America, which is huge, like unbelievably huge. But I think in order for that to be true, you have to factor in every single death that related to medication and just like make this assumption that somehow something went wrong in order to cause it. But I don't know. It's literature that I haven't reviewed.
goals as well for the podcast. Like I have my white wells that I need to get into the studio and we need to make something fucking happen. And the number one that comes to mind is Kurt Angle. Like Kurt Angle
huge.
is somebody from Pittsburgh that I need.
Does he live here?
Yeah, he lives in your neighborhood. I wouldn't be
Stop.
surprised if I see him running the steepest hill on the way home from here. Or down Betos getting a fucking piece of square.
I got to start looking out
valley.
for him. What about Dan Marino? That'd be a huge Pittsburgher.
He would be huge. Oh God, neighbor
I'd
would
love-
fucking cream his
I would
pants
love
over
that.
that one. There's a lot of white wells.
Ben would be incredible.
Ben would be incredible. I think Jerome Bettis would be sick too. But I always think of Kurt Angle.
But that's a
and,
Detroiter, man. I could talk to him about
Yeah.
a lot of shit.
Detroit needs to bring we need to bring the Pistons here, Pittsburgh Pistons. They're not doing much in Detroit. Bring that market to Pittsburgh.
My dad was involved with the original site design for their stadium, which was called the Palace of Auburn Hills. But because he did all the
Malice at the Palace.
because he did all of the or because he was heavily involved with the design of the parking lots and the original site, he was given a vote into the name of the stadium. He didn't vote for Palace. His vote was for the Cylinder. Thank God it didn't win.
Yeah, that just doesn't roll off. That doesn't. Can you imagine getting punched by Ron Artest in the Cylinder?
Well, because the Pistons, right? The Pistons, the Cylinder,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
stadium itself looked like a cylinder. It was big and it was like a big giant circle.
That does make sense when you break it down, fucking Ford-wise. And Detroit and their rich history of automotives, like it does make a lot of sense. I was a big Pistons fan when I was a kid. Joe Dumars, Isaiah Thomas.
I got to
Dennis
meet
Rodman.
Spider Sally. You remember Spider Sally?
Yeah. But that's incredible.
He was. We were at like a deli or diner, and he came up to our table. I didn't recognize him, but I could tell he was very tall, 6'8", 6'9", whatever. And my dad said, "This is Spider Sally. Like you should say hi." And I said, "Can you dunk?" He looks at me and he goes, "I could dunk you."
Nice.
I was probably 4 or 5, maybe 3, 4. I left Detroit. I think I was 6 when we moved to Ann Arbor. So, yeah, man. Would you ever live anywhere else?
I think about it all the time sometimes. I think about, I don't have the balls to pick up and leave. I think about it all the time. I think about going to Arizona.
Yeah. What keeps you here? I mean, what ties you to this area?
Nothing, dude. That's what I think about all the time.
You said you have siblings, right?
I have very little family left. I have a brother, Rob, that lives down the street from me. He's about 15 years older than me. And I have I call him estranged. I have an estranged brother, Ronald, in Kentucky. We haven't talked civilly in like 8 years. Me and Quest actually worked on that, trying to figure that out, and it blew up in my face bad. And the ball's in his court. If he wants to fucking figure it out, let's figure it out. But I can't try. No, I can't. I don't even have his number anymore. I don't know even how to get a hold of him. Ball's in his court. You want to talk to me. But that's it. I have a brother, and I have an uncle in Texas, and I have another uncle that's local. But that's it. My like I said, I'm the Highlander, dog. I buried in a span of 5 years. I buried my whole family. My mom had a heart attack. Then my sister passed away. Then my dad passed away. Then my nephew passed away. In between that, countless aunts and uncles. And my dad being an orphan, there wasn't much fucking family to go with that anyway. And even if there was, who the fuck knows where they're at? I recently, if you do listen to Anybody Can Do This show, I recently inherited a property off a random uncle and got sued for it.
Yeah, I was interested in that. That was in New York?
Florida, Cocoa Beach, Florida.
Okay. And I want to talk about that because I actually had a similar experience. I actually had very similar experience because when this is like kind of a long story, but basically I inherited a piece of property in Germany, which was being used as a toxic waste dump.
Oh my goodness.
And so in order to
the EPA
sell it,
sued you.
Yeah, in order to sell it, we had to like clean 10 feet of soil off the fucking top, basically. It was like a huge expense to sell it.
Yeah.
But I think we ended up going through it and losing money. Like ultimately, like the whole process basically cost us money. I can't remember exactly how it worked out, but the point is, you decided not to. You decided to just give it up.
I get a random phone call last February. I'm out running. I'm running. I got my headphones on. I get a random phone call, and I'm just like, fuck it. I'm just gonna answer it through my headphones. Whoever the fuck it is, it's gonna be mad weird. I'm huffing and puffing in the middle of the street. And I'm just like, hello, what's up? And it's this lady from Florida. She's like, I work for this attorney's office. Do you know Eugene Martino? And I'm like, yeah, I've heard that name. I did have an Uncle Marty. I've never met the guy. She's like, well, he recently passed away, and we tracked you down as the only family left. And we got to handle his estate. And I'm just like, I'm running, I'm not thinking much of it. I'm like, oh, wow, that's interesting. What a weird turn of events. Like, I'm like, I just inherited a house in Florida.
Let's go.
Let's fucking go. I was immediately thinking Airbnb, and I was thinking like
Yeah.
reality show, like, because I inherited it with my siblings, and I immediately was like, we got to split it so many ways. And I'm like, that's not even a big deal. At the end of the day, I'm still going to get like 80 grand when we sell this motherfucker.
Right.
I'm like, good fucking day. Way to fucking pop up. A month goes by. I eat a handful. And I had the whole day planned. I was going on a date with this lady friend. We were eating these. We were going to go to Observatory Hill, and then we were going to go just lay around in North Park like a bunch of fucking hobos. As soon as I walk out my house, bro, I get a process server jumps out, and she's just like, "Is your name Ralph Martino?" And I'm like, "Who the fuck are you?" And she's like, just hits me in my chest with this packet of papers, and she's like, "You've been served." And I was like, "Bitch, I've seen the movies." I was like, "I know what this means." I was like, "Served for what?" And she was like, "I don't give a fuck. Call a lawyer." And I was like, I'm about to beat you up for being on my property and putting hands on me. And I just ate, and I was like, I just got fucking served. And I'm looking at this paperwork, and I'm like, I don't understand anything it says. The only thing that significantly stands out is they're asking for $349,000. And I'm like, fuck. This was a Saturday. I'm like, all right, I'll go see a lawyer on Monday. I go see a lawyer.
How much did it get appraised for?
Here's what the story was. It's not going to get that money back. I don't know if we sold it when we should have sold it.
It's a house or it's a condo?
It's a house. It's on beachfront property. It's a beautiful it's a small house. In Pennsylvania, it would be like a $200,000 house if you're lucky.
How big is the lot?
It's monstrous. I don't have the specific
Half acre?
numbers. Yeah.
Ooh.
And he had
half acre in Cocoa Beach. You think you can't get 350?
I could definitely get 350, but there's so many more liens on it that I have been discovering.
So it's a lot more than 350.
It's a lot more right now.
That you're in for.
They just hit me the other day. It's 390 something. Zillow was saying the house was worth 300 if you sold it on Zillow or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, but then you think about all the cuts that come out in order to sell it. You're talking about 6%.
Yeah,
for the realtor, you're talking about 6% for
and
the
all
bankers.
that, and it's different realtors too, because it's in Florida. I don't know what Florida
and then
real
the taxes,
estate laws are.
You know that you have to pay taxes.
I know
when
the
you sell the
taxes
crib.
are sick, and then the homeowners association is all up in it.
Fun time. So how are you going to escape?
I go see the lawyer. I tell him what's up. I give him the paperwork. I'm like, take a look at this. What do you think? He's like, well, what do you want to do about the situation? And I was like, I want it to go away. I was like, if I'm not going to, I was like, this is not the come up I thought it was. I thought we was going to get, I thought we was going to sell this crib in a couple months, make a couple bucks, have a vacation spot, or even move there. I don't know if maybe I fucking move there. Who cares?
Yeah.
But
he hadn't been paying taxes.
What he did was he was 98 years old.
Yeah. He was living off of the property.
He was I don't know if he was in like hospice or whatever, but his wife was like 96 years old.
Okay.
She did real estate her whole life. I don't know for all I know, there's $350,000 sitting in his fucking oven in the house, like just cash. But she goes and refinances the house while he's on his deathbed. Mm-hmm. He dies the day the fucking check comes. She dies 2 days after that check comes. Mm. And there hasn't been one mortgage payment. There's no equity on the house. Mm. So essentially, like, they hired private investigators thinking, like, does maybe this Ralph Martino have a duffel bag that has $350K from his uncle fucking Eugene?
No way.
That's
so
fucking
they were investing you? They were investigating you?
I don't know. I don't know really what the fuck they wanted about it, but I got dragged into it. I go see the lawyer. He's like, all right, what do you want to do? Do you want to take the house? He's like, because you can. He's like, it's well within your rights to claim this house. Sell it, pay the taxes, do whatever, but you're going to need $350,000 no matter what comes of it. And I'm like, what if I say I don't want the fucking house? And he's like, boom. He was like, you don't have to do nothing. He was like,
Yeah.
I'll fill out this paperwork, notarize it, and say, Mr. Martino says, go fuck yourself. I was like specific about that. I was like, tell them go fuck themselves. I'm like, they gave him 98-year-old dude $350,000 and thought he'd pay that loan back.
Yeah.
And they continually send me letters and they keep pushing it. It started out at $350. They sent me one 2 days ago. Now for some reason the state of California is involved, which I have to go talk to my lawyer again, which pisses me off that I have to pay this motherfucker money every time for nothing. Like, I'm not even going to get nothing back. I'm not even like legally in trouble either, where they could put me in jail or take my shit. But right now it's in California. Someone else took up the case. I don't know if maybe someone is fighting it, but there's like liens on it. I guess someone put a roof on it. They want $50,000 for a roof.
Oh, Jesus.
And then they want homeowners association fees, which are $75 every week for someone to come look at the house and make sure the house is cool.
I remember the funniest part
And then
from
the lawn-
podcast
and then
is
the
when you were
lawn
talking
care.
about the lawn
And
care.
then the lawn
You
care.
know, I know lawn care.
I know.
These prices
I
are
was-
unacceptable.
I was looking at the lawn care, and they actually sent me a breakdown of the lawn care, and it was
So you knew it was
$125.
bullshit.
It was $125 3 times a week, and I'm like, why are you cutting the grass 3 times a week? I'm like,
That's right.
You
Unacceptable.
motherfuckers,
Well,
like-
because it's Florida.
and
You never lived in Florida. You don't realize how fast the motherfuckers grow.
I
It's
had
unbelievable.
a legal issue in
Unbelievable.
Florida. It was a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, Florida lawns
I've-
grow fast, brother.
I've sworn to myself I would never step foot back in Florida after all the shenanigans they've caused me. But
That's where I did medical school. That's where I met my wife. That's where I got married.
my court date was February 5th, and I didn't go to it. I had the option to like Zoom as
Yeah.
well, and I'm
Yeah.
just like,
A court date for what?
I don't know, just about the house. Like,
To get out of the property? Because you were
I don't
clear with
know.
the lawyer, right? You want out.
the lawyer told me to disregard anything they sent.
Yeah,
me.
you're
when
done.
I called him and I said that, he was like, you don't have to go or whatever, but they still keep sending me. They sent me
Wow.
the summons, said February 5th.
Wow.
Then they sent me a letter on February 6th that was post dated. I guess they sent it that weekend saying court was canceled on the 5th, and it's now moved to the 28th of this month still.
I think
and
you're
I'm just
making a good
like-
decision.
and I'm
you're
just
making a
like,
good decision.
fuck?
You don't. It sounds like the place has too many problems. You don't even
No,
know
it
the
ain't worth
problems.
it,
You don't
yeah.
even know
Yeah.
all the problems. Now, is it possible that, like you said, there's a duffel bag in the stove?
It makes
Maybe.
me- makes
Can you
me-
go down there and look? Can you
makes
go
me
down there and
wonder-
like be like, I want to recover his personal effects
that's-
before I make my decision?
That's where I ran into a lot of roadblocks because I reached out to the initial people that reached out to me and started this whole shit. She like
Yeah.
trapped me. I like cussed her out. I was like, lady, you made it out like I was inheriting a house. I was like, if you told me there's $349,000 lien on it, I'd have told you no, thank you, and hung up that day. And
What if it's worth $1 million?
you could have foreclosed it and sold it. Well, I did look at it. I was like, email me the specs and the address. And
Yeah, you looked at it on Zillow. It's only
and
worth
I
$300.
messaged her a few times, and I said, just out of curiosity, who has the keys to this property if I were to fly down to Cocoa Beach, Florida? And
Yeah.
just take a look in his garage and see if maybe he has a boat or some shit like that maybe we need to know about.
Right.
Maybe he has some gold. Maybe he's sitting on his counter is just a stack of fucking money that he got loaned. Like, it's very weird. I get why they asked a lot of questions, but at the same time, they can't legally make me take that house. They can't legally.
Correct.
I signed
Listen
nothing.
to how crazy this property is in Germany.
They
So
would
is it-
never loan me $350,000. If they loaned me $350,000, I'd change my life tomorrow. I'd open up a chain of fucking Italian villages everywhere.
It was in what's the name of the town outside of Hamburg called Leipzig, Leipzig, and the cousin who I inherited it from is cousin Jacob. I drove his car also for a long time, and I often tell the story about his car because it's a good example of you reap what you sow.
Yeah.
Because my grandma had asked me all summer to come over and start Jacob's car because otherwise the engine will seize up, and over the winter, just make sure you come over once a month and start the car. Well, I didn't come over very routinely. I kind of let it sit there. And then a year later, she said, Isaac, would you like Jacob's car? And so I had to drive it with all the problems that it had accumulated because of my own laziness.
And this is in Germany.
No. This is in Squirrel Hill.
Okay, I was about to say
He lived in Squirrel Hill. He gave
Flew there once a
he
month.
gave a lot of his money to the JCC, which is the Jewish Community Center
Yeah.
in Squirrel Hill, and so he was a benefactor of there. He was a Holocaust survivor with a number on his arm.
My goodness.
Man who I knew, with a number on his arm. Very interesting guy. Polish, spoke very slowly. He walked every day. He walked around the track at the JCC, wore high pants, like his pants were hiked up real high, and like a short sleeve button down shirt, white short sleeve button down shirt, khakis, and he was walking around the track. Super interesting guy. He ran furniture stores in the hill and on the north side, I think, which were like these ripoffs where he would like basically overcharge people for furniture. Whatever.
That's the game.
I don't know. The point
Don't
is,
get me started
he made a
on mattresses
lot of
and
money.
Drug trafficking.
Dude, he made a lot of money. And for one reason or another, he had this house in Germany. And it's not clear why he had it. One theory that our family has is that it was actually given to him by the German government as a form of
repayment for
being in the Holocaust. That this was like a, what's it called, restitution?
Yeah, reparations.
It's a form of reparations from the German government is one thought. The other thought is this was a farm in Germany, and he had actually escaped, I think, the concentration camps in Poland where he lived, in Czechoslovakia, Poland. And some people survived by going to Germany and pretending to be Christian and working on farms. And it's possible that this location is actually the farm that he lived and survived, and he worked there, and he somehow
just
made friends with the people that lived there, and they put his name down as the inheritor, as the person who would inherit it eventually. That's possible. Third possibility is that the German law provides that if you work on a farm for some amount of time, that if everybody else dies, you get it. So we don't know.
There are like squatter laws. Like if you live in a place for 7 years, that's your property now or whatever. But I had an Uncle Victor. He lived in New Jersey. He had his World War II story is tremendous. He was a bad kid, pickpocket. My dad described him as a pickpocket while he was always in and out of like jail and shit as a youth. Gets picked up one day at like 16. The judge says, you're either going to jail or we'll let you register to go to World War II. He's like, man, I'm going to go to World War II. Send him down the Normandy. One of the first off the boat, he immediately gets gunned down. They fucking shoot his whole arm off. They keep him in a concentration camp for 2 years, I believe he was there before he escaped. They rebuilt his arm. They stitched him up, rebuilt it. One day he gets his hand on a soldier's gun and they overthrow it like Hogan's Heroes. He escapes, brings his platoon, super war hero, comes back to America, brings that gun with him. This gun should be the sickest fucking...
It's a Ruger, right?
Yeah,
it's like a
German
pistol.
Luger or whatever. Yeah. I think they're Lugers. I think it was Luger.
Luger, maybe. Yep.
My dad, being an asshole youth, running around the streets with this fucking gun like he's a gangster, gets arrested one day with the gun, throws it in the fucking Monongahela River before the cops can fucking take it. This fucking gun is like the biggest piece of history. Like my uncle gets his arm shot off, survives a concentration camp, saves his group, and gets back to America with it. And then my dad throws it away. The reason he got arrested was because they hot wired a steamroller off like a PennDOT construction site, and he ran it into a bowling alley.
Holy shit!
My family was the gangster shit is funny. They always did a bunch of dumb stuff.
Yoga, Ralph. What an amazing journey this has been, sir.
Yeah, I feel like we didn't even touch on it. I
Nothing,
ended
right?
up rambling on about quitting work. I always tell people, if I care about you, I've probably told you a million times, quit your job. Quit your job. It'll save your health. It'll free your mind and pursue your dreams. And don't let anybody ever tell you your dream is stupid either.
Yeah. Go ahead, Reg.
We both have a lot of stories that we know because we read in a lot of books, Papa.
Yeah, reading is important, but I kind of agree. I mean, I think it takes courage. It takes a lot of intuition to know the right path. And one of the things you said earlier that I liked was how alcohol can kind of crush dreams and kill dreams. I think it also takes away intuition. That's one of the main things.
Yeah.
It steals time, but it also sucks up your intuition. It blocks your intuition, so you can't tell which cup the ball is under. If you can't tell which path is going to lead to the ravine and ruin, and which path is going to lead to the city of gold, to El Dorado. And all of us are tasked with seeing people in our lives and trying to figure out if they're good for us or bad for us. And the only way to know is to use intuition, because we have these fragmentary views of life. We have these just these little tiny slivers of window of light that we see with our senses, our six senses, and the rest of the world, most of the world, is outside of our senses.
The only way to heal is to go through it. And whether it's alcohol, pills, even weed, it all numbs things that you should be focusing on going through rather than numbing.
It's been an absolute blast. If I've learned anything today, it's I need a podcast studio in the South Side. I'm going to come record my episodes across from, where are you guys?
We're across from
Somewhere.
Jack's above
Jack's Saloon.
Streets on
That's
Carson.
where I'm coming.
1120. It's the same address as my house, if you believe in like
Yeah.
angel numbers and shit. When the offer came across the table, I heard the 1120 and I was like,
That's it.
bet. I was like, I might
Yeah.
as well get that fucking tattooed on me. I'm like 1120 for life, bro. That's my.
I used to have a watch, G-Shock. It had 3256 on the dial.
Yeah.
And that was the address of my flat in Brooklyn, where I lived with, Lindsay, the yoga teacher I was talking about.
Growing
earlier.
up, I had 1111. It was always funny addresses. 1111 Soul Street
Whoa.
in the hood. Bro,
Wow.
that was the hood.
That one sounds like made up. Doesn't even sound real.
I always use that as an alias. Ralph Souls is my alias name. Ralph in the street I grew up. I guess that's how you classified your porn name, like whatever your name is in the street you grew up on. Ralph Souls, the alias. If you ever hear him on the radio, it's me.
Thanks so much for taking the time to do it, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Let's get a picture.
Yeah, for sure.
Not a kid anymore, but some days I sit and wish I was a kid again. Back in the day when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore, kid anymore, kid anymore. Back in the day when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore, kid anymore, kid anymore. Back in the day when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore, but some days I sit and wish I was a kid again. Andre 3, Biggie Smalls and Bahama D, Black Alicious, Big L, Black Thought, Binary, Busta Rhymes and Bone Thugs, Cannabis and Chuck D, Comic Cage, CL Smooth, Tempest de la DOC, Styles FX and Doodlebug, Doom and DMX, EPMD, Eminem, LP, Fat Lip, G-Rap, Ghetto Boys, Ghost Sisters and Grandpoo, House of Pain and Hove, Mortal Tech and Cube, Spectre Deck, Jungle Brothers, Ja Rule, Jada, KRS, Cool Keith, Big Daddy Kana, LL, Lil Wayne, Lauryn Hill, Last M, Blue Pay, Lewis, Logic, MOP, Mr. Meth, MCA, Mighty Most, Nas, Onyx, OC, Pharoah Monch, Fife, Poor Rice, Pun, Prodigy, Q-Tip, Rakim, R-Ray the Rug, Raekwon, Raz, Roy, Scarface, and Slug, Slick Rick, Snoop Dogg, Twista, Tupac, Tree J, and all the ones I forgot to list. My bad, motherfuckers, you got the gist.